All right. I'll call the advisory meeting to order at 7:34 p.m. I'll jump right into the minutes. When we start with 324, did anybody have any edits?
So this last set that I sent today, Kathy had sent to me, she made a couple corrections for 324, which was the first meeting, and then 330, the second meeting.
Okay.
330, which was just a regular standalone meeting. Sorry about that.
Yep. So my only other edit, Claire, for the 24th is line 39.
Yeah.
The last word, it says debit services. I think it's supposed to be debt services.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's the only one I have for the 24th. Anybody else have any edits?
No,
Oh,
no
okay.
edits.
I move that we approve the minutes from March 24th as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Marcy. Eric?
Aye.
Adam?
I abstain.
Okay. Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And Tom, I'm not sure if you're there, if you stepped away. All right, well, okay, so is it 401, 402? Yes.
402. Got it.
Okay. All right. And on the 30th, did anybody else have any edits?
I just had one, I think. There was a typo, very minor. I think it was row 136. Let me see. Just reminding myself here. Gone down. Oh, should it be EDC is scheduled to meet with advisory on April 13th. Casey said their budget should have gone down when the minute taker, but it hasn't. I'm not sure what that with the minute taker.
When the minute taker cost was removed, is what it should say.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like something was missing.
No idea what's going on with this. Can you guys hear me?
You screens, make sure you don't have your camera cover on.
I don't. I haven't literally done anything. I've been on Zooms all day long. I haven't done anything. So there's something weird going on in my computer.
Just try changing your camera source with the little caret above the stop video. There you go. Now you're on.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, I called to order and we finished the minutes of the 24th and now we're working on the 30th.
Good job. Okay, so you got, which minutes are we on right now?
30th.
30th? Okay, so you did 23.
24.
Haven't done 23 yet.
Okay, Andrew says we have, Claire says we haven't. Have we done 23?
Just 24.
Okay, all right, keep going.
On the 30th, Claire, line 21, I think it said a T, it should be the ambulance.
Okay. Makes sense.
Line 87, there's a couple of these. You have special TM, which we know is town meeting, but it's also Tim Martell. So we might, for those just want to call it town meeting, because there's a lot of TMs, and since we said TM is Tim in this. So I think there's another one of TMs for town meeting on 103.
Oh, okay. I understand. Yeah, gotcha.
See what I'm saying? And then
I'm
108.
sorry. I didn't understand that at first, but I do now.
No worries. It's special Tim Martell. I mean, Tim is special.
Very
it's
special.
supposed to be town. And then line one.
There's a fall Tim Martell and a spring Tim Martell as well.
And an annual Tim Martell.
And an annual, that's right. And a special one too. Don't forget that one.
Yeah. And so line 1 before Claire, I think feels instead of fells. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
I just have one. On line 56. Where you say should be able to receive funding. I mean, that's true. But I was also going, that, having the seat on the committee, I feel like they should have a say in how the funds are overall distributed and not just their own projects.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Claire? When we talk.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have them in front. What line was that again, Tim?
56.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. As they should be able to receive funding from CPC under the open space funding bucket.
Yeah, they don't. So the first thing that CPC will say is that they don't need a seat on the committee to receive funding, right? So what I was really going for was they really should have a say in how funding is approved, right?
You mean the trails should have?
The Trails Committee should consider applying for a seat on CPC, right?
Right.
As a committee, they should have a say in how that money
Gotcha.
is distributed, right?
Okay.
Yeah, anybody can apply for the funding. You don't need a seat to do that, right? It's really about who has a say in what projects go to town meeting and what ones. That's what I was driving at.
Okay. So it'll, excuse me, it'll read that for a seat on the Community Preservation Committee, as a committee, they should be able to receive.
How about determine?
Okay. To be able to determine.
The
And yeah,
distribution of CPC funds.
that's perfect.
You see what he's saying, Claire? Because that's important. That was a really good suggestion. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
keep going, Andrew.
You go ahead. That's 30, right? Move that we approve the minutes for March 30th as amended.
Second.
Kathy.
I'm just letting you do this, AP. Go ahead.
All right.
You started it. Keep going.
All right, roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Tom, I think, is away from his keyboard, but I'm not sure if he came back. And Faf is aye, so 501.
601.
Or 601. I gotta count myself, I guess.
So Andrew, your internet is a little shaky, but it's okay for the moment.
Yeah, that's why you should take over.
All right, so that's one. Okay, so we have not approved the 24th, or we have?
Yes.
Do the 24th, we haven't done the 23rd.
Okay, so we just need to do the 23rd? Is that correct? Yep, okay.
Yes.
All right, any comments on the 23rd that was distributed, I think, a couple days ago? Eric? No? AP?
Nope.
I haven't had a chance to read them in depth. I glanced at them and they looked.
Marcy?
Yeah, no comments on those at all.
Adam?
No comments.
Tim?
No
Tom?
comment.
So Tom's still away? Okay, motion to approve the 3:23 minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
Who was the second? Adam? Okay, so
Adam,
roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
AP,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Timothy,
Aye.
Cook is aye, Tom? Still not there. Okay, 6-0. It's actually 6-0 in the first vote too. Tom's not voting. He didn't
Yeah,
abstain.
it's true. He's not here.
The first one's 6-0 too. Or the one for 3:30 is also 6-0. Okay, minutes are done. Eric, can you bring over Andrew Dennington from the audience?
Absolutely.
There he is.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So if you'd like, I can give you a brief overview of Article 31.
Well, let's introduce you officially first. So does everyone know Andrew? He is one of our esteemed select board members, he was formerly on advisory, went from advisory to select board, and then before that he was ZBA. But he is the reason that I say AP, not Andrew, because on advisory we had AP and AD at the same time. So that's where it all comes from. We had two Andrews. Okay,
Welcome
so
back,
Andrew, what's that?
I just said, welcome back, Andrew.
Yes.
Oh, Tim, good to see you. And I did enjoy the joke about the fall. Tim Martell.
That was a good one. Good one. You gotta have a little humor. Okay, so AD, it's all yours. Why don't you give us the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish? So Andrew's here to talk about Article 31. He basically suggested this, so it's select board's article, but Andrew's the one that's leading the charge on this one. So why don't you start big picture and then tell us everything we should know before we make our decision.
Sure. And I also see Tim Litt is in the audience. He helped me a lot with this article.
You want us to bring him over?
That's okay. If I mess something up, I'm sure
He'll raise his hand if he
Yes.
has something to say.
Okay, so what Article 31 does is it requires boards and committees to hold a hearing and give prior notice of rules and regulations before they actually adopt and enforce them, and you have to file the rules and regulations with the town clerk's office. So that seems pretty basic, and I think one comment that I've got from people is they're surprised we didn't have something like this already. So first, just stepping back, you know, we have bylaws in town, and we also have some boards have the ability to issue rules and regulations. And by my count, that the boards that do include the Planning Board, Select Board, Conservation Commission, Historical Commission, Board of Health. And at least at the federal and state level, when agencies enact regulations, there's a requirement they have to have a hearing on the regulations before they're adopted so that the public can comment on them and give feedback. But there actually isn't a requirement at the town level. So this is just intended to have a simple procedure for requiring that. And it was really prompted by last year. There was a board that was enforcing as a rule that hadn't gone through this process. It had been considered at a public hearing. And I can understand, you know, board members have all volunteers. I can understand why there might be confusion about maybe following a very informal way of issuing rules and regulations, but that can have, in the case that we dealt with before, had very formal consequences for the homeowner that was dealing with those that didn't have, you know, notice of it and wasn't easy to find it. So again, as I say, a lot of people commented they're surprised we didn't already have something like this. But the idea is that if town meeting passes this article, then hopefully we wouldn't have a situation like that again. I don't think it's pretty controversial. This has gone through a couple drafts. It has been circulated to every board and committee, got some feedback. And then working with Tim Litt, we did do some revisions. So just stepping back, like walking through the major provisions, section 2. For boards and committees, that only if there is a a statute or a town bylaw that explicitly gives them authority to issue rules and regulations, then this is triggered. And before you adopt or amend regulations, you just have to post a notice of that. And rather than the required 48 hours notice under the open meeting law, 7 days. In our original draft, we had 14. Some people thought it would just be kind of an administrative headache, so just reduced it down to a week. It has to include a copy of the proposed regulations, or at least a summary. And you can combine it with the ordinary notice you have of a meeting, if that works. Regulation doesn't take effect until it's actually been approved in a public meeting by a vote, and that it's available for inspection at the town clerk's office. Tim made a very good suggestion about what if there is an emergency situation that would really deals with the Board of Health and things like the mask mandates during the pandemic. So there is a kind of escape hatch where a board could issue a regulation on less than 7 days notice, but then it would be only temporary. Some of the comments that we got back wanted to make, some boards and committees had a question like, okay, well, is this going to affect policies? Like, some boards have rules about when they will accept filings from people and the type of, size of paper that it's filed on. Or I know that the library trustees had some concern about, well, is this going to affect things like, photocopier policies? And no, it's by defining capital R regulations in the way that it does. Hopefully that makes clear that it's only if your board has a bylaw or a statute that says you have the authority to issue rules and regulations regarding this section, then you are subject to these pretty simple requirements. It's gone through a couple drafts with town council, feedback from Jim Hegarty, and I've done the best I can to synthesize all these different comments to get it into the form that it is now. So happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So it doesn't apply to the library.
No.
Okay. So they now understand that, so they're okay?
Yep. I don't know. I talked to Marguerite about it because she is the chair of the library board of trustees. I'm on another committee with her. So I think so, but I don't know whether, and maybe Tim would know this, what, if anything, the library board of trustees did about this after their last meeting about it. I mean, I think they wanted to be exempted from this, but I think the way it's drafted, they're not covered by it, so they don't have to worry about it. And even if there was a question about are we covered by it or not, you just give 7 days notice before you hold a hearing of what you're supposed to do instead of 48 hours, right?
So the 5 entities that currently have the ability to make rules and regulations currently can do it on the fly. They could do it with the normal open meeting law notice for a meeting. They could do it at just a normal meeting based on the fact there's no rules or regulations right now that tell them how to do that.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the problem you're trying to solve. Is there's
Well, it really had to do with the situation where something was adopted where there wasn't really, and I don't think any, wasn't on an agenda of any type of a meeting. So another comment I get is, well, this is really just such common sense. It's already covered by the open meeting law, but this gives at least a little bit more heads up that, adopting regulations is something important. So you have to give notice 7 days before you do that.
all
Kathy,
right.
Tim's hand up. Can I bring him over?
Sure. Okay, so questions for Andrew, Marcy?
No questions, Andrew. I think I'm in the crowd. I'm surprised this didn't exist already. Thank you for the work on this. I support it definitely. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
Tim? You're fine with it? Adam?
Hi, Andrew. All right. So My questions are going to be because I'm new to town government. So these might be rookie questions.
Sure.
So today, any of these bodies that can make rules and regulations can, in theory, do that. They're supposed to have an open meeting, follow the policy, post an agenda, all of that. Would this be adding a layer to that? So they would still have to do that, but this would make it so that there's an additional hearing or meeting of some sort, but no, okay.
Not
You just have to
necessarily.
give more notice. You got to give someone
Yeah.
7 days notice.
They're still doing the same thing. They just have to give more notice.
Yeah, and also by specifying that it's a hearing, it's a hearing where there's supposed to be opportunity to hear feedback from people rather than just a meeting.
Okay, so that's what a hearing implies, that there's more discourse potentially between the public and that group making that rule or regulation.
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything, I guess, they don't need to get approval per se to then pass that rule or regulation. They have the authority to do that.
Yeah, as long as it's within the scope of their rulemaking authority. Now, another thing that we considered but didn't do was to have a requirement that before you hold the hearing, you have to notify town council of what you're doing, so that town council would just make sure, okay, yeah, this isn't, you board do have the authority to do this, but then decided against it because when you actually go through the town code and look at some of these rules and regulations, some of them are pretty banal. Like the select board has the authority to issue rules and regulations about like, fines at the transfer station. There's no need to bother the town council with stuff like that, write that into a bylaw, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That was sort of the spirit of where I was going with my questions, that were we getting to a place with this where it was just going to bog things down too much, but I think I understand it now. So thank you.
It does add another layer of things, but I mean, because some people thought, okay, like the first version that said 14 days, and people said, I got some feedback that, oh, that seems like that could be kind of clunky. We're all kind of used to having like the agenda go out at a certain time. 2 weeks is a lot of time. So reduce it down to 7 days. But hopefully, if this passes, hopefully we'll have to just educate boards and committees about it again, make sure everyone knows about this requirement.
Well, at least the 5 that are affected by it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm a little confused. There's already certain boards, etc., committees that have certain types of hearings that are mandated to give 14 days notice, right? Planning board, demolition, delay bylaw. So this doesn't conflict with that, right? So they still have those rules. They're still in place as far as what they have to do to hold an official public hearing. So they've got their notice periods, which are different from this.
Yes.
Right? Okay. All right. Let's see, who has it? Tom, I assume that you're still not here. Eric, did you have a chance to ask any questions?
I mean, I'm supportive. I guess my only question, Andrew, is are there teeth behind this? I mean, what's the recourse, right, if this isn't followed?
I think the recourse would be that if this wasn't followed, that you could say it's just not effective. If this was being enforced against you, you would say, well, it was not validly issued, so I'm not gonna abide by it. And then what would probably happen is the board would then say, okay, whoops, now we'll cure this defect, hold a hearing, and then it couldn't be enforced retroactively.
Got it. Cool. No, I appreciate the clarification. Just sort of curious from my own education, but supportive makes sense. Similar to Marcy. Surprised it wasn't already there.
AP?
AD.
AP.
I know, I said AP, talking AD. So one question I had was, would this cover, I was thinking like fees charged, like say fire wanted to raise a smoke detector fee. I think that would be but does the select board vote to increase the fee? That makes sense? I feel like that is something that would be good to include in here. They're not a department or a board. I think there is a code in the MGL they can charge for that or something, but I wasn't sure if that would be something that Chief Achilles would have to come to the select board to approve an increase in fee, which would then trigger this bylaw.
I don't think he has to do that, Andrew.
No.
What do you think?
I don't know.
So it applies to boards, committees, commissions, working groups, subcommittees, things like that, things that are public bodies. So I think of the trigger as, okay, is there in the town code a provision that says the select board has the authority to issue rules and regulations about fire?
Yeah.
I don't know. If
Like
it,
DPD,
if so,
like
yes.
DP
If no.
Yeah, I was thinking like the DPW regulations for trash, right? They have the 2-page, sheet about what the rules are for the transfer station. I guess they're not a board or committee, so that they could change that as they see fit. I don't know. I just think it'd be good to include those kinds of things, but I know it's pretty late in the game, but ideally I'd like to see, anytime that the town changes a fee or something, or changes the rules and regulations of a department, I think that, is also warranted.
I don't think changing the fees would come under this. I mean,
Yeah, I
I
don't
know
think it would.
AD said it. I mean, I just don't see.
Well, I
why-
think if the Board of Health wanted to change, say, the fee for a septic inspection, they would vote on that. They would have to do that, but it's just because the Board of Health is a board. But any
Yeah, but
town,
I
other
just-
We're talking
town,
about
You're saying that's the
passing-
rule of regulation. I don't know why that's.
Yeah, we're talking about things that are basically like laws. All right. You can have regulations that they're basically equivalent to like town bylaws, right? They fill in gaps of town. That's what this is tended to cover, not permitting fees or things like that.
So my 2 cents on this, since
Tim,
Andrew asked.
Tim, hold on for a second. Okay, so, regulations in my mind do one or two things. They either interpret law or they actually can be law. They can be legislative if the law is not very clear, right? So you've got both types. So I just don't think the examples we're using are the right examples. Fees are, except the board can set a fee and they've got a schedule of fees. That's not to me, a rule or a regulation. It's just a fee. To me, a rule regulation is much more serious, much more permanent than just a set of fees. So I'm not sure we're coming up with really good examples. But maybe it was great. So go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so let me try and, since Andrew invoked my name a couple of times, let me.
Wants to defend himself.
No, not that, but I think I'll try and add a little bit of color to this. The library hasn't met. I think their next meeting is on Friday, but the library is sort of exempt in 2 different ways. One is that their authority comes from a state statute, and so that excludes them. The second is that they don't have we're a little bit subtle in the way we put this together to try and capture this distinction between, big rules and regulations and, who can use a conference room and how many dimes you put in the photocopier and that sort of thing. And the way we got at it was, if the enabling legislation specifies, that the entity, shall, regulate, if it explicitly says, you make rules about this, then it's important enough to give the public notice. And if it's just an implicit thing, like for the library where it says, they can manage the library, that doesn't give them, that implicitly gives them some ability to make rules about the use of the library, but it's not a big enough thing to trip this. It's really, I think, by the time we were done with it, it has a really light touch. It's not trying to get at, the fire department. It's really trying to get at the things that are run by volunteers, for whom this is not a day job sort of thing. And I think it really only does 2 things. One, it makes sure that there is notice in a, and this is discussed in a public meeting. And the second is that when you're done, you file it with the town clerk so that the public has an opportunity to inspect it. And I think in the case that precipitated this, neither of those was done. And that's what set Andrew off on this quest.
All right. So I
That's
think
correct.
the good news, it's very short. So Andrew, I assume you're going to do the explaining and tell me. If true, if I were you, I would start off with who the 5 are that are affected, planning,
Yes.
select board,
Yep.
Board of Health, conservation, and historic, so that the library and everybody else understands that it's not them. Hey, Tom. Tom, do you have any questions for Andrew?
Sorry, no, I don't. I'm kind of sick right now too, so.
All right, so we will look at you. Not listen. Okay, so AD,
Well, I
I
hope you
think.
get well soon. There is
Okay, I
something
think-
going around.
No, there definitely is. I think that.
I got something about a week ago.
I think we understand, very clear, and I think we're probably going to go ahead and be able to vote on this one tonight when we start voting. So,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thanks.
Nice
It was
to see
nice
you.
to see everyone,
Yeah.
and look forward to actually seeing you, everyone, in person.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, all right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
I'm just gonna press leave.
Thank you, Tim, too. Okay, next is EDC, and I see Alan Belniak and Rob Anderson.
On the way over.
And you can move Mr. Litt back to the audience.
Good evening.
Hey,
Good evening.
Rob. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
So welcome to advisory. So guys, we want to talk about your budget first, and then other related things. So let's just start with the budget. AP, can you pop it up or you want me to pop it up?
Why don't you pop it up? The one I have is on my edits.
So it'll take me a second to get it up. While we're talking, Rob and Alan, do you realize that select board voted last night on your budget and voted to cut it by $1,000?
Yes.
Okay, and it's their decision as to what goes in the printed warrant articles. So that's what's going to get printed. Doesn't mean advisory will support it, but it'd be probably not a great use of our time to making a big deal over $1,000. So we want to see what you guys think about that. It's basically your $10,000 consulting line item that's been reduced. So we want to see what you think about it and whether you really think it's worth going any further with. So that's kind of my first question before we actually look at the budget.
Well, without taking it back to the committee, one of the things that I really appreciate is the work that the team, the staff working at Town Hall, particularly Marika, puts in. And as a result of that work, we have, as at town and the committee itself, actually received an awful lot of grants from the state. Any reduction in the kind of capital for the committee has the potential to run and be detrimental to the long-term, viability and all of those things. I wish that the select board had not. $1,000 in terms of the town's budget is minor. So although it is minor, it seems major to the Economic Development Committee. That being said, $1,000 is just $1,000, and I don't think as a whole that it would be bad for us. I'm just, as I said, disappointed in the select board on that decision.
I think it was Marty Healy, although I'm not sure, so please don't quote me on that. But one of the members of the select board even said, I think they use the term, it's like a rounding error, which at least someone on the select board thought, agree with you, Rob, that it is minor in the grand scheme of things. Someone else on the select board dug their heels in and said, well, we are we appointed the EDC, and they should be following our guidance, so cut it. So if that's how it's going to be, I guess that's how it's going to be. It's probably not worth fighting.
But you could fight if you want to, and we're not saying we agree with this. So we're asking
No,
you.
I understand, but just
Yeah.
to the most efficient use of time and the mental calories.
I'm looking forward to the benefit in my taxes on that $1,000 worth of savings.
There's an
So-
extra nickel for you, Rob.
Don't look too hard.
I would gotta have some humor, but no, it is not worth fighting. Like I said, you can be disappointed and accept things and just say it's not worth fighting about. So
Yep.
I think that's the position that as chair I'd like to take.
Okay, I am trying to get this pulled up. Bear with me. So why I'm doing this, anything else you guys want to talk about tonight as far as, where you're going, what you've got on your plate? Would be very interesting for us to hear. So go for
Well,
it.
I think when I spoke before, and I really want to stress how important Marika is to the EDC, and I think for the town of Southborough. There are some economic development issues that are facing the Commonwealth, particularly in housing and infrastructure. And I think when the EDC, in collaboration with the planning board and select board, got the mixed use zoning passed in downtown, that can help address some, but not all, of increasing the amount of potential housing in Southborough. And then with the grants that Marika and the team, including Claire Reynolds, have gotten for the town, it allows us to address issues of infrastructure. So I think from the EDC's perspective, the ability for staff to get those grants, to provide those studies, and turning the focus to Route 9, where you can get some bang for your buck for some facilities that are empty and some that could be redeveloped, are kind of where the Economic Development Committee sees the future and its goals. Obviously, there's going to be a new master plan coming up, which is going to inform some of the decisions that the EDC takes in terms of allocation of our volunteer time. But that being said, those grants from the state were hugely useful to address infrastructure and potentially housing. Alan?
I don't have anything additional to add. I was going to mention the master plan and how in a previous meeting we went through and we're looking at the items that we thought we could look at, soon, just beyond soon and a little bit later. So I think that as a committee, we've got a decent path forward for what we want to try to tackle next year.
So the focus is Route 9. Is that what we're saying?
Among many, I think the one thing that I really like about the people on the committee with me, although I am the chair, there is some flexibility to some of those things that we address. We had a presentation from the Trails Committee because the opportunity to get people walking to the downtown by interconnecting into those trails has an economic development benefit. And so one might not necessarily think of trails as an economic development strategy, nor a priority for our committee, but we were able to be a little bit flexible. With regard to Route 9, Route 9 has some of our industrially and business zoned areas, as well as some properties that are underutilized, as well as some land sites where there could be development. So that's why I think Route 9 is going to be one of those focuses.
Andrew, I have it up too. So this is yours though, right?
Our budget?
No, I'm talking to Andrew. Yeah.
Or
Andrew,
your screen? It's Andrew's
Andrew,
screen,
you're sharing.
yes.
Okay, because my budget
Yeah.
actually is different from this. I'm glad you did it because I've got a different number on the one I pulled up.
Well,
Okay, so here.
I edited the 9,000 here.
Okay. All right.
Did yours
So
say 3.58%?
yes.
Yeah, that's because the one in the folder doesn't have the 9,000. There's it.
Which shows how small their budget is for $1,000 to make that much difference. But
Yeah.
anyway, okay, so let's go back to this and then let's go back to big picture. Okay, so here is the budget advisory that's being proposed with the $10,000 being reduced to $9,000. So year over year, it's 1.5%. So well within the guidelines that were issued. So let me just go around. Does anyone, I'll start with Eric. Eric, do you have any questions on the actual budget?
Nope, it's pretty straightforward.
All right, they've got this one, they've got, well, let's go to the, can you go to the salary worksheet, AP? Okay, so this is their sole employee. She works part-time, Marika, who gets a lot done with those 19 and a half hours. So that's all it is, and they're basically increasing that by 3% as they were instructed to do. Okay, now can we go back to the budget?
Kathy, what's the cutoff for benefited position?
19 and a half.
Okay.
So
Thank
she's not benefited. That's why it's 19 and a half. Okay, so here we go. So let's see. AP, any questions on the actual budget?
No, I think the only one I looked at was the dues and membership, but I see that you took over something from the planning board, so I think that's explanation.
Marcy?
I had the same question about dues and membership, and then I see it outlined below. I question about the salary there, and then the reduction of $1,000. Rob, or what you guys are saying is that Marika works 19 and a half hours, gets paid according to the salary on the other sheet, and then the supplement for other contracted work, like if you guys get a grant, comes out of the 9,000.
It does, yes. But I think one of the key things, and this will perhaps be asked later, is that for one of the grants, there has to be a town match. And that can be in a variety of ways. That can be the town spending money, or it can actually be an in-kind match for town staff hours. So in order to reach that match, there are going to be two ways in which it happens. One through contracted services, and also through a town staff time.
Thank you. That was my question.
Adam?
I don't have any questions about the budget. That's pretty straightforward. I was just curious about some of the grant funding that's listed there. It's at 278.5, and is there any? I see the first one. It looks like it expires in June 21. Is there any other grant funding that's expiring?
Well, I believe the micro enterprise grants have kind of finished up. The one that we're working on right now, and I'm looking for it right there, and I don't see it represented. It's the one from the EEA. I'm sorry, I'm having to do this by looking at the screen, and my screen's actually small. No,
Yeah.
We have one from Energy and Environmental Affairs. That's for a study along Route 9. That is ongoing. I believe that we will be submitting for the Community One Stop for Growth, with Marika taking a lead role and kind of writing up some of that stuff. But the great thing about Massachusetts is that there are an awful lot of grants that we can still apply for in a variety of ways. So yeah, I don't see the one on there for EEA, but that one was, we got 45,000 from the state, and that's a Route 9 study.
Okay, so the work that was being done, leveraging those funds for any of these grants, is that in a good spot, I guess? Or if we don't get renewals or find other grants, is there anything, I guess, that we need to consider, sort of a exposure to not being able to finish something that you were hoping to have finished?
Well, it's this would be the time where I'd say, well, I could always use more money, and it would be nice if Marika could come on board full time. And that I think would open up many more opportunities. What I would say is that our budget is very streamlined, and we have great staff. So I don't think there are things that we can't accomplish with within our budget. So to answer your question, I think we're in a good place.
Just want to also point out too that we're just aggressive about trying to find grants wherever we can. It seems like every other meeting they're being surfaced, and we're considering applying for them, because I wouldn't quite call it free money because it all comes out of our taxes, but we're trying to bring those monies in without, I guess, direct contributions from local Southborough taxpayers. It should be noted though, and I think the planning board constructed a letter with regard to the MBTA community that if we strictly say no to that, it also shuts us out from other money. So I think we're trying to be flexible. I think we're asking for some flexibility in how we are viewed and interpreted as an MBTA community, because we don't want to be shut out from additional monies. But we do run the risk of that if we are shut out from that, if we are declaring ourselves as not being viable to meet those MBTA community standards, that we have the potential of being shut out of 2 other pools of grant money.
Alan, did you see the letter the select board wrote?
Yeah, I just referenced that. Yes, I did write it, and I said it was nice that we're asking for some flexibility in how it's interpreted, but we should also note that if it's viewed that like, too bad you have the ability to meet this and you're choosing not to, it means we're also saying no to 2 other pools of money.
Okay, so to be determined what they say. All righty. Anybody else have any other questions of the EDC while they're here tonight, as far as either budget or anything else that they're working on, which of course is a lot, as always. Okay, so thank you guys. So it sounds like you guys are resigned to the $9,000 in the budget.
Yes, and yeah.
Because if you were going to amend it on town meeting floor, we would like to know it. So it sounds like you don't plan on doing that.
No, but the one thing that I would say is we would like the chance to revisit this next year, because we expect there to be more initiatives, more projects, more potential grants where that it might just be $1,000, but it could be allocated somewhere else. So I think we're going to revisit it next year, but we want to work well with our colleagues at the select board level and at the planning board level, as we did with getting that zoning passed. So it's not a fight that I want to make.
And for anyone who's on advisory next year, if they see a request for $1,000 increase, the footnote will be not necessarily to increase it $1,000, it's to true it up from the year prior.
Well, that's probably not a good reason to do it. So I'd come up with
No.
I'm
not saying we would do it. We wouldn't do it because of that. I'm more saying that it might look like it's $1,000 increase, but we're trying to make ourselves whole back from the $1,000 that we're conceding at this moment.
Yeah. But you know what happened, Alan, is with the selectmen's or the select board's new policy as far as paid minute takers, you guys aren't on that list as far as paid minute takers, so you've got to deal with that yourself. And so then the question came, well, where did you pay the minute taker from last year? And it turned out it came out of contracted services. So that's what's caused this. If that hadn't happened, I don't know that anybody would have questioned it as far as the 10, although the 10 is $1,000 more than the previous year too. So maybe they would, or 2 years ago. So maybe they would have. So you're not going to have the same issue next year.
Right.
So if 10's the right number next year, put it in there.
Yep. Wonderful.
Alan, how much of 10,000 is grant matching?
Did everybody understand that? He said, how much of the 10,000 is something? So AP, your internet is not doing great.
Oh, let me stop sharing.
Okay. Well, we heard that.
So what I was asking for is, of the 9 or the 10,000, how much is grant matching?
I believe, I think, and I don't have this at my fingertips. I believe it's 7,500 of it.
I do too. I agree. But you still won't know until you sit down and do it because you don't know what the in-kind piece of it is. So, but 75, I think, is the number that they are thinking about as far as.
Yeah. So I had always had the idea, we've talked about it in previous advisory meetings, of having a pool of money not dedicated to one or various departments, but isolated, whether it's under select board or advisory purview for matching of grants.
And make it a warrant article too, so it stays there.
A pool of $50,000, $100,000, whatever the number is, that maybe is a warrant article that it can be used for matching grants upon either advisory or select board's authority. I think
So something to think about. I think it would make that piece of it, and you don't have to worry about putting it in a budget, because that's hard to put in a budget. I mean, it would go up and down too. So I think that's a great idea, Andrew, that we keep that on the table, maybe for the fall town meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a fabulous idea. I know from infrastructure and DPW, there are lots of grants out there that require the town, if they're doing sidewalks or if they're doing road work, there's a match. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, all right. So nice to see both of you. Alan, your wife is Lee, right?
That's correct.
Would you tell her I said hi? We were on the SEF board together several years. So
I'm
tell her.
aware. I will pass it along.
All right, thank you guys. So we will
All
see
right.
you soon at town meeting.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Good night. Good night. So Eric, can you now bring over Mr. Valentine and Mr. Purple? I assume Mr. Purple wants to come over. He's in the audience. And he knows we can see him. There he is. So Mark, did you want to come over too?
Oh, sure. I'm here for moral support for Brian.
There you go. There you go. Vice versa.
Nice.
So hello.
Hi.
So Adam was our liaison to benefits. So Brian, why don't you kind of let's just introduce what's all in this budget. Andrew, can you get it up? You want me to put it up? I can get it faster this time, I promise.
You do it.
Me do it? Me?
Kathy, can you do it, please?
Okay. All right. Andrew is on the lake and having internet problems.
We have DSL here, but Saturday my Starlink satellite dish is arriving, so I should take care of it.
You sound like a robot. So Brian, you want to go ahead and start and just explain what all is in this budget, given there's a lot of stuff in here?
Sure. So the benefits budget consists of about nine line items. Two of them make up about 90% of the budget. It's the health insurance, of course, and dental insurance and retirement fund. Actually, I meant to say health insurance, retirement fund, workers' comp, and dental insurance is sort of the ranking of the line items. But health insurance and the retirement fund are about 90% of this budget. The retirement fund is a little different than other things. It's an assessment by the retirement board, the Worcester Regional Retirement Board, that's issued annually. Similar to Algonquin's retirement assessment, however, different in that we have less control over it. Their retirement board of about over 100 members, and they are regulated by the state and basically do this mix of statistics every year of our employees and what they pay into and what they owe for retirement, and we get an assessment. So not a whole lot we can do about it. I hate to say that, but it's true. We have limited ability with that. But the health insurance, I think, is the big thing tonight. So that's kind of where I'm kind of gonna run through this quickly. But the health insurance is about 5.3 million of the 8.8 million. Annually, we renew the health insurance like any other business or entity. And this year was a little different. We lost Fallon Health Insurance for our active employees. They got out of the business of offering insurance for active employees. We got notified in the late summer, early fall, somewhere around there. So there was an opportunity actually with the town of Northborough and the regional school district, because they also have Fallon and they were issued the same notice. So we went to bid, and we went to bid with just ourselves. We went to bid with the town of Northborough and the regional school district. And we also reached out to various other municipal offerings. Some you wouldn't really know, like All Care. Some like Blue Cross, which you would know. Some other joint purchasing agreements like Maya, you may or may not be familiar with. They all had sort of drawbacks. Some wouldn't even offer to take health insurance with us for a group. End of the day, as of course these things sort of work out, is the group offering of the town of Northborough and the regional was the best case scenario. It sort of basically flattened our rates for this year. I think it was just a slight uptick over 0%, so 0.4% or something like that we got in the health insurance rates. It was pretty good. So the district and the town of Northborough and Southborough now have the same benefits, the same plan. It's Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and they offered plans to match our HMO plans and our few other direct and select plans and PPO plans. And it was a good deal. We're pretty happy about it. It didn't double, probably tripled our membership. Southborough was about, I want to say 160 to 180 participants for healthcare. Regional is probably a little less than that. Town of Northborough is more than that. So we've probably gone up to close to 600 members in our group. And of course, like any other business, that was appealing to Harvard Pilgrim. So they offered us a fairly good deal. Our out-of-pocket annual cost did go up. They doubled. But we have no deductibles for employees, which was a really good selling point. So, and again, this is all about, like I said, about 0.4%. I want to say 0.4, but above our current rate structure, which is not very often you hear about that. So that's pretty good. So that's the healthcare. I did mention the retirement fund. I won't go into that and all the issues they have.
So I'm ready to share
although
my
it's,
screen. Let me pop it up so that people can watch as you talk. So Eric, can you let me share it?
Should be good. Sorry about that, Kathy.
There you go.
So can everybody see that?
Little zoomed in. I don't know if that's just
So, and again, just as a reminder, this budget covers town active employees and school active employees. And it also covers school retirees and town retirees. So there's quite a bit of people that this budget covers. So obviously there's a few ancillary lines here, like unemployment and life insurance, pretty small lines, minor benefits we offer. Medicare, our share of Medicare, of course, the employee has 50% of that, but the town also by law has 50% of that. And the other couple of small items, Medicare B penalty and the FSA fees. We do offer an FSA plan. Health insurance and benefits, by and large, are governed by state statute and certainly pension. I did mention that it's hard to change pension. Health insurance too. they're governed by certain chapters of the state that, you know, they don't change often. When they do change, they're very careful about it. Let's put it that way. So it's sort of a Frankenstein type statute in the state law. And the town has very limited ability to do certain things about these plans. We can definitely change the town's contribution rate, but that involves collective bargaining and other issues. Again, retirement, we have very little choice on that. That's basically, we're handed what we're handed.
And can we be, Brian, can you be clear about what retirement means? It means basically everyone but teachers, right? Teachers are part of the state program. The state funds the employer piece. We don't fund that. The state does that. The teachers pay into it. But this is everyone but teachers, correct?
So that's correct. So the teachers are sort of off the books, and I don't want to say off the books, but they're in your state budget. You pay taxes for the Mass Teachers Retirement System, and they're sort of their own entity. So you as a taxpayer, as a resident of Massachusetts, pay that directly. Now, as far as a town employee, it's a little different. You pay into the town retirement system, again, which is a part of the Worcester Regional pension system, to fund you know, all your retirees and actually current employees for that system. So they have different categories in the Worcester retirement system. The police and fire are in a different group. They get out or they can get out at 55 with their full benefits. Town employees can get out at 65 with their full benefits also. So that's kind of how it works. It's a real mix though. It depends how long you're in the system, what age you're at, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of an actuarial thing. The pension system every 2 years does an actuarial, you know, an actuarial study that they, you know, the 100 plus units sort of are parsed into certain categories. So that's how our assessment comes about. It can be in our favor. Sometimes it can't be in our favor. Fortunately, I will say the retirement system is supposed to be fully funded, I believe, by 2040. And the Worcester Regional system, which is our retirement system, is actually in the lower half of the performing systems in the state. There's a number of different systems. Norfolk, some cities have their own systems, by the way. Worcester, Leominster, they have their own systems. But unfortunately, Worcester Regional, for a number of reasons, is lower performing. They use the high discount rate for their rate. You know, their assumed return on investment was a little high for a number of years. So they have to make up for that because state law tells them they have to be fully funded by 2040. So to make up for it is why you're seeing a 10.2% increase estimated on that assessment. And unfortunately, I have to say it's probably going to be that way for the next 2 or 3 years. You're going to see 10 to 11%. The last time we spoke to the regional system, they said plan on 10 to 12% for the next few years because, and they cap it. They actually cap it because some systems would go over that 11 or 12%. And they said, no, we're going to max it at, no one can go over like 12%. So that's a little problematic. That's probably our red flag area.
So is each town that's part of the Worcester County system not going to be assessed the same 10.2% increase? Every town has its own increase, but it's capped.
That's correct. They actually go through and do their number of retirees and their actuarial study every 2 years. So you could have a system that, for whatever reason, maybe they have a lot of less retirees, that they get an 8% increase. But they said plan on 10 to 12, just as a rule of thumb. So you know, that's what I'm planning on for now. And, you know, not a lot of good news there. we'll see what they do. I think there's a lot of pressure on them at the moment because there's been some publicity about this that they're a little underperforming. So we'll see what the retirement board does with that. But again,
And
go ahead.
the number you have here is the actual assessment for fiscal year 23. You have it. This is not a guess.
That's correct. They did release that. Yes, that's correct. But for future years, if you want to go out more than this year, FY24 beyond, my understanding is just plan on that 10 to 12 area. I hate to say that because it reminds me of the residential shift rate now. We keep talking 10 to 12%, but that's sort of where we're at with that. So I think most of the other things are self-explanatory. Again, I think we did a good job with the regional and town of Northborough. This is not, I just want to mention also, this is not an official joint purchasing agreement. Sometimes you can have an official joint purchasing agreement that's written and codified and for a certain term. We have an unofficial joint purchasing agreement. So next year, if for whatever reason, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but if for whatever reason the town of Northborough had a large claim, and it's happened before, believe it or not, or the regional, we could back out. Town of Northborough could back out, or a regional could back out. We'd have to analyze that and see what it did to our rates, but there's no obligation to go beyond year one. So we're hoping to, because it is a good thing for all the employees. Some of the Northborough employees actually, especially, obviously on the school side, Northborough and regional in Southborough, they sometimes intermix. So one year you'll have a teacher on the Northborough side, and all of a sudden you'll see them on the Southborough side, or they'll be on the regional side. Suddenly they'll be on the Northborough side, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Makes it a lot easier to transition employees through the three systems if they're all on the same benefits. So it's kind of like a unrecognized benefit, but we're pretty happy about it for this year. And I think it's a win for us this year. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but
one more comment before we turn it over to Adam to kind of poll everybody, see what questions we have. You remember advisory very much encouraged you to look at joining forces with Northborough. We actually looked at other things too, the Ashland Consortium, et cetera. We felt like we couldn't get into that, it's too late. But this is exactly what we wanted you guys to do, is to look at whether there was a benefit of joining Northborough and the region to do it. Looks like it's good. So but I am surprised you're saying that we could get in and out of this. So that's interesting. So they could kick us out too.
They could kick us out too. That's true. So there's a little bit of I'm not sure it's risk, but there's a little bit of year to year, we're going to have to analyze this.
Because it seems to me that every year someone's going to be unhappy with the other, right? Someone's going to have a better experience rate than the other, right? So I just hope we don't bounce back and forth, because the year that it looks good for us on our own, we go for our own, and then the next year it doesn't, we want to join and they don't want us.
We're hoping that we we maintain our relationships and we can work through that.
Okay. All right, Adam, you want to take over and let us know anything we should know, and then we'll see what questions there are.
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Brian, for all that. And I'm going to add a couple of things, but keep me honest, Brian, if I get something wrong.
Sure.
So just a little bit more context maybe on some of these bigger items or where we saw big percent changes. So as Brian mentioned with the health insurance, very flat between the new provider, the Harvard Pilgrim Health, versus what we had previously. Actually, I think it's a little bit better, Brian, than, so it is 0.4 as a total, but if you look at the active line item, that actually only moved, maybe 0.02%, I think it is from my math.
That's
and
correct.
So the retiree portion is actually more responsible for even that small increase of 0.4%, which is dictated by Medicare. So not much we can really do there, just like some of the other line items here where it's pretty much set either based on an assessment or things that don't have much flexibility for us. I did want to add one thing. I think this is still accurate based on our last conversation, but correct me again if the math's wrong here, is under that workers' compensation, which is one of the bigger items, and jumped 21%. That is based on premiums from the past and what claims were actually made in the past. And if you look at the actuals that Brian had shared with me, the increase is actually only about 10% from what he's asking for this next fiscal year versus what the actuals were the year prior. So even though it's a big jump here on paper, the claims were actually quite high over the past couple of years, and especially in 2022. So does look like a big jump, but versus actuals, it's only about a 10% increase. Is that right, Brian?
That's correct. Yes, you're right.
Just checking if there was anything else here worth note. So open enrollment annually is in May. And so there may be a little bit of guesswork here as far as how things, some of the puts and takes as employees decide what they want to do as far as opting in or out of any plans. This does account for any new positions or, obviously a forecast of the renewals is included in here. So we don't know exactly what that will look like until May, but this is our best guess. So I think everything else, all my notes, Brian covered during his introduction, and Kathy had already asked the question that I was going to make sure everyone knew, that you had to have at least 20 hours per week to be eligible for health, dental, or life insurance through these town plans. I think everything else we covered. So yeah, any questions? First on my screen is Eric. I can go just based on that order here that Zoom randomly set up. So Eric, what anything catch your eye here?
A couple questions, which forgive me, but just being newer, right? I think this is just helping me get more comfortable or understanding. So one question is just looking back historically, what happened in 2020? Did we hire a bunch of new employees? Did we pull people in from someplace else? I know this isn't relevant to fiscal year 23, but I'm just curious as I look at the, pretty significant increase over time, and it looks like it's 2019 to 2020. I'm just wondering if there was something specific that accounted for that.
Yeah, it's I probably don't know offhand how well. However, I will say that this budget always makes me a little nervous because if you get health insurance is up to, and I hate to, it's kind of scary to think about, but it's up to $20,000 to $25,000 a person that we're hiring new employees for, or hire every time we get an employee on. So some years we go through periods where we have spouses that lose their coverage for whatever reason on their own private plans, that have nothing to do with Southborough, but that makes them eligible for health insurance on the town side. So once in a while we get these little swings, and it doesn't take much to make $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000 of this could have been the year too that we had some new hires, and Kathy and Mark probably can also remember this, but we went through a few years where we hired some new people. So that could have been part of it, but we definitely have swings where, and a part of it is, it just makes me nervous because sometimes I can't predict it. It's real strange because the schools go through their open enrollment and enrollment basically late August, sometime in August or September. And of course, they're the big nut, and you just don't know. It's like I try to, it's a little bit of an artwork, and so far we've been good. Most years this budget turns back probably less than 2% or 1% of its budget, which is very good, but it's also, I keep saying it's very narrow too, and we're due for a year that we're gonna get nipped. And so I try to balance it because everyone asks how much cushion do we have in the budget. It's not a whole lot, but I try to put a little. But yeah, just to boil it down to your question, it could have been a combination of some new employees we had this year and some swaps from from spouses.
Appreciate that. Just looking for some, historics there. And then I have to ask this because the way you phrased it, but are you afraid this is the year we're going to get nipped in the nips?
Well, if you're talking about this year, I'm actually about to do our projection because I usually do it right about now. April and May, I usually project out for the end of the year. And Kathy, for her own information, we usually transfer end of year transfers. We start talking about that now. And we actually do have a couple that we're looking at. And we usually transfer from the benefits budget because there's usually enough money in there. Has no you don't have to have a link between, if you're short in the DPW budget, you don't have to have a link between the benefits budget and that budget. You just have to have a funding source at the end of the year. So just for your FYI, we're probably going to have that in the town meeting warrant. We're working on that in the next week, but you'll see that soon on the few transfers we have.
Well, that's going to be one of my questions when we get to the articles. Are you going to put, because normally we don't do anything with those two articles. We just do it at the end of the year.
That's correct.
So you're actually
we
going
are
to
going to do it this year. Correct. It's not a huge amount of money, by the way. I'm not saying it's hundreds of thousands, not. But we do have a couple of accounts. I think it might be easier just to do through the town meeting warrant. So.
Well, why do you think it's easier? I think it just opens up a can of worms.
Really?
Well, we'll see. We should talk about it. I just think you're when people don't understand what you're doing, I think they could misinterpret what you're trying to do there. But so we can talk about it. But yeah, that was one of the questions. Are we going to actually do anything with articles?
Okay, we knocked that one off then.
All right. Okay, so that's Eric. So where do you want to go next, Adam?
How about Marcy? Any questions, Marcy?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Brian. Quick question. Is the workman's compensation accident, does that include like all school employees and all, other employees as well? Or is that just everything but school?
That's true. It includes school employees, and in any given year, you can have, it's in any given year, you can have more of a school side and you can have more of a town side. Workers' comp is, now this isn't fire and police, by the way. Fire and police are covered by their own statute.
Okay.
It's called injured on duty. And that's a whole separate thing that, of course, the state had to make special for them. But the teachers and the regular town employees, yes, it's all in there.
All right, thanks for that clarification. The other thing is just trying to learn as a new advisory member. If you see a spike in claims, let's say in a given area, is there some sort of flag or like a risk assessment or a safety assessment to kind of, how does that work at the town government level?
That's a good question. So we are covered by, again, I said Meyer, and Meyer is Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association. So they're pretty popular with towns. They give pretty good rates because they serve Massachusetts specifically. So they meet with the town probably, and Mark can correct me, probably once a quarter to go over safety. And the schools in town are a part of that meeting where we sit down and the department heads, specifically police, fire, DPW is a big one. In schools, sit down, as well as town administration, sit down and go through problem areas. They print reports saying what injuries have happened, where they've happened, why they've happened, and how can we mitigate that. So to your question, yes, we do that on a regular basis during the year.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Sure.
Great. Tom, we'll go to you next.
Thanks, Adam. No, I'm good. Some of the things I thought of have just been covered, so appreciate it.
Perfect. How about you, Tim?
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Kathy or Andrew, do either of you want to be last? Andrew usually is last, so I don't know.
Kathy, go now. See if she has some questions.
I've got a
All
few
right.
questions, and Andrew, I'm still having trouble understanding you. Sorry.
All right, let's go to Kathy and we'll see if Andrew can fix his robot modulator.
Okay, so just to clarify, I'm surprised one of you didn't ask this question. So if you look at line 18 on the spreadsheet, you'll see the 250 that's going into the other post-employment benefits trust, that what we call OPEB. The reason it's 000 is because Brian's moved that to a separate line item. So we're still doing that. We're still putting the 250 in to try to, again, catch up that funding too, because it's also behind. So Brian, I didn't hear the presentation last night. I've got it. You guys sent it to me, so we just got to read it as far as what the actuary said. So what's the goal there as far as trying to get that one fully funded as far as the year?
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. So I think, and again, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we kind of came away from that conversation with homework. The actuary specialist, I will call her, did a great job, but she also offered possibly scenarios to where we could get that paid off. Because it depends. It depends. If you do 250 a year, you're probably looking at a long-term payback. If you do 250 plus a percentage, she can run those numbers and actually give us a payoff date of when that might be. So it was a little open-ended. Once it's expected that once the Worcester Regional Assessment is paid off, that we will just repurpose that. I know you hate that word, Kathy, but repurpose that to OPEB. And if that happens, then our payoff is going to be a lot quicker, because that's a couple $1 million, of course, a year. But I can't give the definitive answer. It's a little bit of a case study. So we kind of left the meeting yesterday that we would continue with this next year to look at that 250 and see if we did I don't know, a 2.5% a year, what that would mean, and sort of game it out a little bit.
I asked that because we have in the past actually said that the actuary has told us that doing 250 a year, it would be fully funded. And I'm just making up the year, but I'm not far away, like 2032. And it made no sense to me. You multiply 250 times 10 years, there's no way it was going to be fully funded by then. And there's always a person at town meeting, Chris Robbins always asks this question as far as what are, total unpaid, unfunded liability is, right now. So we just need to always have that number ready for that question. But I just never bought that 250 a year was going to get us there anytime soon. And it sounds like maybe she agrees.
She does. She does. If you do see the meeting, you'll see that. That's
okay.
That's
and I'm going to. I just need a chance.
It's pretty interesting, actually.
All right. So that's one thing. Then the other thing too, and this is so picky, Annie, but it's educational. So the Medicare B penalty, I assume, is a penalty you pay when you enroll in Medicare Part A and B after you're 65 instead of when you're 65.
Yes.
Okay. So why don't we make sure that people know that all you got to do when you're 65 is to go ahead and enroll in Part A, which doesn't cost anything, and defer Part B until you retire or ready for whatever, and then there's no penalty. I know it's only $16,000 a year, but still it's $16,000 year to year.
No, you're absolutely right. And so the law, I want to say 10 years ago, made it optional for towns to pass that you could require that. Before, you weren't required to. You could let employees go to 75 and stay on an active plan, which is crazy. So then the law changed, and the state changed it to you could make it a local option. Then, not even 3 or 4 years after that, they didn't make it a local option. They made it the state law. So at the time they made the state law, they said whoever at this point is late, you're responsible for. So we're not adding people to that, so it's gonna go down year after year. I think there's a dozen people, and but from now on, you're exactly right. We require it. And if, in that fact, if they refuse that, and again, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but we could kick them off the plan and just not have them on.
So for everybody, there's your advice for tonight. When you turn 65, make sure you enroll in Part A and defer Part B if you're still.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
because you'll pay more for Medicare Part B down the road. Okay. All right. So I think that's all I've got, other than the last question, which is a little bit unrelated, which is where do we stand with the union contract negotiations as far as timing goes?
That one Mark gets, he finally gets to talk.
Well, that's why I asked, because Mr. Purple's here.
Yeah, see, it's never the items that are on the agenda. It's always the while you're here items.
Well, that's why we do this.
So we have 4 union negotiations that we have been conducting, communications officers, police, fire, and DPW. I have memorandums of agreement with 3 of the unions. Police is the only one outstanding at this point. The memorandums of agreement are not executed yet. They're done. They're awaiting signature from the negotiating teams, and then can be presented to the respective unions and the select board for ratification. I expect that to happen in the next several weeks. We're meeting again with police on Friday and hoping to, bring that process to a close. I know that there was the goal, I believe, that the select board had discussed when it came to the tax increase this year was to try to keep the operational increase in addition to the 12% shift to accommodate the residential valuation increase, to try to keep everything under 5. And I think the fact that we've driven the operational budget down to about 2.3 means that there is not going to be any reason, why we're not under 5 and probably, maybe 4.7, somewhere in that ballpark by the time you add in the value of the first year of the new contracts.
Okay. So that one hard. Okay. So in other words, there's going to be no change to the actual operating budgets for the police, fire, and DPW before town meeting, because nothing's going to be ratified before then, correct?
Yeah, I think there will be things that, obviously they've got to be ratified if I'm asking town meeting to vote on them. Right. So yes, but that ratification should happen over the next several weeks. Selectmen meet, they're meeting next week to tie up a few items, finalize the warrant on the 12th. And then they'll be meeting again on April 26th. And that'll be really the last opportunity for them to be able to entertain MOAs for ratification. So if it's not done by the 26th, then in all likelihood, we're going to miss the window, and contracts will not renew on July 1st. And then we'll continue to negotiate, and we'll address them at the next available town meeting.
Because the town meeting always has to ratify the contracts.
They have to ratify the first year of any new deal, yes.
So if we weren't having a special, we'd have to wait a full year?
Yes. Or you'd have to, there is with the collective bargaining law, once you do reach agreement and you do execute the MOA and you ratify, you've got so many days in which to hold a meeting to provide the funding. So, we could be put in the position of having to call a special, but if we're, and we've not set a date, we've not said anything permanent, but everybody seems to mention that we're having a special. So I'll go along with the wave right now and say we're having a special in the fall, and, so we would have another opportunity. I'm hoping that's not the case. I know it will not be the case for 3 of the 4 unions. I'm hoping we can get the final one completed in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. So Mark and Brian, after this, we're going to start voting. I've got the spreadsheet, and we're going to put the votes on that and send that to you tomorrow.
Okay. Kathy, Kathy, one other piece of what I consider fairly good news. I'll put Brian on the spot a little bit. We do have an opt-out plan for health insurance for people who are on the health insurance plan and decide that they want to get off the health insurance plan to get on their spouse or some other plan. And the selectmen have to renew that every 3 years, Brian?
Yes, correct.
Yes, and they just renewed that again, and I just wanted Brian to talk a little bit about that. I'll put him on the spot in terms of numbers and everything. I've got some idea of what they might be, but he'll know better than I do. But it does provide us, a little bit of savings in that line item, and you'd be surprised how many people are willing to take advantage of that opt-out.
So we give them something for opting out, they get,
Yes.
okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's 13 people, Kathy, that take advantage of it, and about 10 of them are family plans. So we give them $3,500 for a family plan, a year, or $1,750 for an individual plan. There are fences around that. You can't just come off and off the plan. You have to be on the plan for a couple of years before you can take advantage of it, and you can't you can't just if you cancel it, it's prorated. It's pretty common sense parameters. I can always send it to anyone who, in fact, Adam, I should have sent it to you. If I didn't send it to you, I can send
Why would an
I can-
individual ever opt out?
An individual?
Yeah. They've got to have insurance, so what are they opting to?
That's a good question. There's 3 people that do it, and I don't know. It's a good question. But the family plans for certain save, at $3,500, they save a significant amount of money. So I think the memo that I did to the board identified about a couple $100,000 a year that we're saving right now, and a good amount of it's the school. It's just the schools also. So the young teachers at the schools, they may feel they don't need the robust coverage. I don't know, but it definitely works in our favor, I think, and I think it's a great program. We've had it. This will be our 3rd round, so I think this is going on 9 years that we've had it.
So you think maybe they go on the exchange, the marketplace, and get the insurance
Possibly,
cheaper,
yes.
and then do that? Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah, but it's worth to have if we can. And again, it's just another tool. But
I think we're very lucky that the year over year is 0.4%. I've got of course, my group is 16 people here, but our increase from Aetna is proposed to be 13% starting June 1st, and we've got a really good experience rating. So we're shopping.
We're lucky this year. That's how I'll leave it.
So Tim, Andrew, you guys, I don't know what you're seeing at your companies, but I think that 0.4 sounds really good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Guys, can you hear me now?
You're still a robot.
Hold on.
R2D2. Okay, so Mark, you're okay with our plan as far as we'll get you the spreadsheet tomorrow, and then we'll be done as far as what's going in the printed warrant. We do intend to vote on everything before that we can. I mean, we might vote on citizens petitions till we get to town meeting, but we intend to vote on everything before town meeting. And Jay will put the vote on the screen, so they'll see the vote. So I just want to.
And if you do, I don't know if you plan on meeting before town meeting, but if you do meet prior to town meeting, change your votes and everything in that, we can update that, right.
I was going to ask if she's meeting next week. Are you guys meeting next week, Kathy?
Yeah, we got 2 more meetings. We're going to meet on the 13th, and select board is going to meet with us to talk to planning board as far as their articles go. Then we're going to be, then we're skipping the next week. That's school vacation week. Then we're going to be on the 27th. And then we're going to meet, at 5 o'clock on the day of town meeting. So we've got 3 more meetings after this to actually meet and vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So you guys are welcome to watch us vote, but it's getting late, so do what you want to do.
Yeah,
So,
we went 5 hours last night, so
I know you did.
The
So,
invitation, but I'm going to get some sleep.
all right. So we're moving you back out. Thank you both for coming, and I'm sure we'll be talking the next couple of days.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I don't need to share my screen anymore. So I Have you unshared me, Eric?
You have to stop the share on your end. Kathy, it's not me.
It's disappeared. I don't know what is wrong with my Zoom tonight. There's something wrong.
As you push your like cursor to the top of the screen, the option menu will pop back up.
Okay, I got it now. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're pretty much on schedule. Okay, so for those that are new, what we're going to do now is start going through the articles one at a time and vote. Claire will keep track of our votes. We've got a spreadsheet that, Claire, I'm going to email it to you right now. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, so I will email it to you right now.
Can we have the latest articles up shared?
Who said that, Tim?
I said that.
So you want to see everything shared?
I just want to see the warrant article that we're voting upon.
So I think the easiest thing is to show the spreadsheet. It's got them listed, what they are. Do you want to see the actual whole article or just the?
I want to see the actual article.
Okay, all right. So let me get this to Claire first.
Yeah, so I don't know if I was. There's feedback.
You're okay.
Hold on. Does anybody else hear that feedback?
I did, but I don't anymore.
Okay, I muted Claire and it went away. Yeah, so for example, Kathy, I might have just missed it. I don't know how, but I was looking at the one that Mr. Purple sent out, and like for example, the recreation revolving fund is now up to $500,000 instead of 400.
Yep.
Where'd that come from?
Well, it's an arbitrary number, just so you know. They're trying to make sure they pick a number that's big enough to pay all the expenses that they intend to pay out of that, which of course is you know, the teachers for the programs, it's the part-time person, et cetera. So it's an arbitrary number, just to make sure they've got the right to at least spend that much.
Yeah, it was always 400,000 and we were talking about possibly lowering it. And then the next time I look at it, it goes up another 100,000. So that's kind of why I'd like the latest warrant articles on before us to see, you know, what else has changed.
Okay, so I've got the warrant up on my screen. I can share my screen again. Then on my left screen, I've got the actual spreadsheet that lists them by number and the ones that I think are ready to consider to vote tonight. Okay, so that should, I think, do the trick. So Eric, you're going to have to let me share my screen again.
You should be good to go, Kathy.
And AP has looked at this too, so we both looked at it as far as ones we think may be ready for you guys to vote on.
Kathy, is this audio better?
What's that?
Is audio better?
No.
It's not good.
Sorry, Andrew. To be blunt, no. Okay, so here's the latest warrant. Okay, there's still a lot of red lines and stuff in here, but this is the latest one. Okay, so we're just going to start at the front. So I'm going to pull up the articles here. Okay, can everyone see the actual warrant? So you should see Article 1. Eric, can you see?
Yeah, Kathy, can you change your views? We're just looking at a single page, unless everybody else, unless
you just want to look at a single page.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just on my 15-inch MacBook Pro. It's a little hard to
I can't read it as is.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, and then if we can kick up the size of the copy, you know, you can call me an old man. It's fair.
Now?
That's much better. Thank you.
All right. And a lot of these are perfunctory administrative, but we're going to explain each one at a time so you really get them. And a lot of these are going to be all combined into the consent agenda. So there's going to be one big vote on several of those. The moderator puts together what he thinks should be on the consent agenda. We'll have a pre-town meeting, probably the week before the actual town meeting. Everybody doesn't have to go to it, but during that pre-town meeting, he goes over what he thinks should be on the consent agenda to get everybody's opinion. And then the town meeting can actually say, no, we want to pull something out of it. And that's happened before. We don't want that to be in the consent agenda. Okay, here we go. The first one is literally just to allow people to make reports. Like advisory will make a report. So it's just to say, that's okay. So that one is as admin as you're going to get. So I'm going to keep going. Stop me if you want more explanation as far as these ones that are just really routine and perfunctory. There's really nothing to them in substance. That's the first one. The next one is to basically allow us to accept donations from the not-for-profits, Faith Schools, St. Mark's, etc. So they have given us money, and this says that we can take it. The third one is to basically borrow money ahead. So if for some reason there was something wrong with the timing of receipts, the treasurer's got the right to go borrow money in anticipation of receiving money. He'll never need to do that because we always have plenty of money in the bank at any one time. But just in case, he's got the right to borrow short term to basically pay bills until he gets receipts in that are expected for the year. So that's all that one does. All right, the fourth one is to people are allowed to sign contracts for 3 years or less. This allows certain entities like the schools to sign contracts for more than 3 years if there is a benefit for doing so. So we always approve that. I don't know that anybody ever does it, but they've got the right to do it. Andrew or Tim, stop me if there's something you want to add to these. The next one, we're not going to vote on.
Kathy, if you don't mind, the only thing I want to say about Article 1, and you don't have to go back to it, our town moderator has done a great job of facilitating conversations and the timing of town meetings. It wasn't that long ago that Article 1 in particular could, we'd sit there and it would last 30 to 90 minutes as every department head in town stood up and gave an exhaustive review of their activities in the town. If our town, but that's something our town moderator did independently. The town meeting review committee actually recommended and voted to get rid of Article 1. And it's been irrelevant because of what our town moderator has been able to accomplish. But that's something we might want to consider in the future if something should change. So I just wanted to throw that out there, Kathy.
That's a good point. So because of it, the town meeting wouldn't start to 9 o'clock as far as getting to articles, because you do all the stuff we do ahead of time. It took a while to get people seated and get a quorum. So it started off late because of all this stuff. Okay, so the next one is also a standard one. We are going to meet with personnel on the 27th. So we're not going to vote on this one tonight. They'll come in and they'll explain any substantive changes in their bylaw. But this is a long one just because there's a lot to the salary administration plan. But that doesn't mean there's necessarily a lot of changes to it. So they'll go over this year, there's not many changes. So they'll go over the few changes in it when we meet with them. So we won't vote on this one tonight. Again, this one's in there every year. All right. See how long it is? It goes on, it goes on, it goes on, it goes on. So this is the entire plan. These are not changes. This is the plan.
Why does the entire plan have to be included, Kathy?
I don't know. So why don't we put that on our list too, Tim? Really, as if anybody's ever going to read this.
Red line version or something.
Well, you should just put the stuff in that's going to change, period.
Yeah, they really should just, because, I mean, that's how everybody else does it.
Of course. My God, if they didn't, look what we would have here. So I don't know, old dogs, no tricks. This is something we've done, but no reason to keep doing this. We're on now the 20th page.
Yeah, we're supposed to be a green community, right? And how many of these do we print out?
A lot. It's almost done now.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. Back up, I skipped 2. Okay, so now Article 6 is important too. So when the original financing was authorized to build the public safety building, it was X amount of dollars. It came in significantly under budget. Last year, we voted to rescind most of that excess, but we left a little bit there just to make sure everything was wound up. It's all wound up now, so now this article is cleaning it up. So it's basically a vote to rescind the last little piece of that borrowing authority. So this is just a cleanup Article 2. So this will be on the consent agenda too, I think. So that completes that article completely. Will be 0 after this one. Okay, the next one is the collective bargaining agreements we just talked about. So we're going to talk more about that shortly. The next one is 8 and 9 are the same thing. One is for the town budget, the other's for the water. And they never put anything in here for this. This is the transfers we're talking about that we usually do at the end of the year, where both select board and advisory have to approve them. I don't know why you want to do this at town meeting. To me, it's just going to cause questions that don't need to be asked. There's nothing wrong with this. It's all fine. But it does, we haven't done it before. And then to do it at town meeting, I think people are just going to say, what are we doing? And add time that we don't need to spend. So hopefully we'll prevail on this one and that we won't have to do it. So this one will be passed. Those 2 will be passed on, but we'll have to see. Okay, now we start getting to the meat of it. Okay, so 10 is the budget we're going to vote on tonight. We'll come back to that one. Okay, 11 is the water budget, water enterprise fund budget. We're going to vote on that one tonight, assuming everybody agrees. 12 is the $250,000 we just talked about with the benefits budget that's been brought out of that budget, and it's a separate article now. So that's the $250,000 that goes in every year to try to get us more fully funded. So during the year, we pay as we go as far as the current expense. So that's part of the benefits budget. This is the extra money we put into that fund to try to get it fully funded. Okay, now 13, this $47,000 is 2 different mitigation checks we got from 2 different developers. So what this one's doing is moving it. So it closed out to free cash. The money came in last year, closed out to free cash. So now this warrant article moves it from free cash to basically the DPW for sidewalk maintenance and improvements. And that's what the money was intended for. So that's why they want to get it over there to what it was intended for.
There's nothing that actually forces it to be spent on that though, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay, Article 14 is the capital that we reviewed with Jason. So that's 937,500, I believe, is what I told. So that's what we reviewed last week. So nothing's changed as far as that goes. It's got, and this is unusual. It's got, every one of them's got a letter next to it and an explanation. So there's that. So we'll see if that engenders any discussion, because the roads are in there and the roads are definitely going to be discussed. Okay, this one is pretty perfunctory too. All we're doing is basically approving the second year's lease payments on the leases we signed last year. So for the new advisory members, Andrew Pfaff did a whole lot of research last year on benefits of leasing versus buying and bonding. And was able to convince Select Board and Brian Ballantyne that leasing really does have its advantages. Brian ended up liking it because it's a lot easier than bonding as far as paperwork and stuff goes. So he ended up, I think, coming around to liking leasing. Now, We're not doing any new leases this year, as far as I know, but so these are just the second year payment on existing leases. So again, pretty admin, we don't have a choice to write the checks. And the next one is the, why is it jumping?
Quick question. Sorry. Why, I'm looking up there and I'm seeing the police, the fire chief's vehicle, right?
Yeah.
The police cruiser couldn't go into that,
To go into,
the lease?
it's only
It could-
$60,000, so they're just gonna buy it. Tim, they're not financing that police car this year. They're buying only one. So yeah, it could be leased. Well, they decided not to lease police cars last year because we're always having to buy police cars. It's not a one-time thing. And they just felt they didn't like the idea of using leases for police cars.
I wonder why. I mean,
They could have. We just didn't, we got them to do most of them, so we just didn't argue that one too much. Andrew,
Okay.
I wish you could talk.
they don't seem to have a long life, right?
Yeah, I think it was like most of the other vehicles was a 5-year length of life, but the police are a little bit shorter, so they were a little bit uncertain of what the timing was.
Well, Andrew, wouldn't that make it more desirable to lease?
You could be paying for a lease on a vehicle that's no longer in service if it's faster than your lease timeline. Right, because remember, these aren't traditional auto leases, right?
Fair
These
enough.
these are financing leases, so you're basically buying it. At the end of the lease, you buy it for $1. So it's one of those, like, if you put 5 years and it lasts you 4, you're basically paying for a vehicle that's not in service.
Well,
So-
I mean, you're not really leasing it for that 5th year. You've bought it, right? So you're basically getting 5 years of financing, right?
Yeah, so you could end up paying for a car you no longer even have because you ran up so many miles on it.
Okay.
So I mean, we can ask, but
Yeah.
I think he
Well,
didn't want to do those for sure. He was okay with everything else. He just didn't want to do police cars. Like
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you buy a new police car every year, if you have 5 vehicles and you buy one every year, right, it's going to be the same price. You're just going to be paying 1/5 of every vehicle every year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another good point. You're right. You buy it every year, so you just buy it. 1 year you buy 1, 1 year you buy 2, but other than that, it's the same thing. Okay, so the next one, 16, is the Newton Street water main improvements that are going to be bonded. So that's to approve that. The next one is trying to get the approval to get the NERI project off the ground, which is the feasibility study, which we have questioned the amount as far as it being looks high. So I thought we'd not vote on tonight, and we'll get on the 27th the guy who really put this number together to come in front of us and just kind of explain why it's $950. Because I'm sure someone at town meeting is going to ask why it's $950.
Yeah, I still don't get it. I feel like we're putting a small engineering firm in business for a year.
Yeah. Andrew took a look at a similar project in, I believe, Hopkinton, and theirs was maybe half of this as far as the feasibility phase. Now, granted, costs have gone up, and that school will cost less than what we think ours is going to cost. But it's still, I agree, Tim. It sounds high to me too. Just your gut. So we'll get the guy who put this together to come in front of us and show us where he got his number. Because I think that is going to engender a lot of discussion.
Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that, I just can't.
And Tim, my other question was, so how does the procurement work? Obviously, you're going to go out to bid, but does it still require selectmen to approve it? So my thought is, if it's up to $950,000, not to exceed, and it comes in lower, right, then great. But I think it seems a little bit high.
I agree.
Okay, so more to come on that one. Next one is, okay, so Tim, I'll put this in what I call the stupid articles too. Why we do this, don't ask me. Every year, we basically have an article to basically fund the deductible on our property insurance. So why don't you just put it through the insurance line? So I don't know why this is an article. It makes no sense that it's an article. You know, you basically have deductible each year, then you have a new policy. That policy's gone. So I think we should put this one on our list as far as articles to go away in the future. Why do we spend 2 seconds on this? I don't know, but we do. So that one will definitely be on the consent agenda. The next one is a little bit more substance in this one. So remember that when people retire, they're allowed to take their unpaid and accrued vacation and sick time to a certain extent. And if you've been here a long time, it can actually be a pretty large number. So this is an article. So it basically is replenishing what's already there. And Brian sent me the list of people they think are going to either retire or whatever. And he put a number next to them, and it's pretty close to $50,000 as far as what they would have owed to them. So the $50,000 is not just made up. It actually, there is a connection to what they really think is going to happen in fiscal year 23. And of course, others could retire that they don't know about. Go ahead.
Yeah, what happens if it's not spent?
It stays in the warrant article, and then, you know, it gets used for the next year. And so the next year they take a look again at what's in the cumulative warrant article, see what they need. It's like a petty cash fund. So they just keep they keep.
But does it accumulate?
Yes.
So every year, we're appropriating 50K into a fund for this purpose. And
no, we don't put 50 every year. They look at what they need. So for example, there's 12 in it right now, and they think they need about 52 this coming year. So they're adding 50 to it to try to get enough in it to pay out for it. So no, it's not 50 every year. It depends on who they think is going to retire. When Joe Morrow retired a couple years ago, I think he got paid $40,000 because he'd been here so long.
so, yeah, but you tell me if I'm wrong. If we don't explicitly close, so let's say last year had one, okay? And you said we only used what, 12K?
No, I'm saying there's 12K in it right now.
Oh, so how much of last year's did we use?
I don't know without looking, so.
Okay, so that's irrelevant. So let's just assume that there's a remainder, call it X, right?
It's 12. I'm telling you, it's 12. I got the numbers. There's 12 in it right now.
But if you don't use the full amount and you don't explicitly come back to town meeting to close it, it stays open in perpetuity, right?
Correct, and that's exactly what happens with this one.
Yeah, so you can go back through 10 years of warrant articles and pull cash out that you haven't used yet.
Yeah, they keep it all in one warrant. They keep this all in one warrant article though. So she just takes that one warrant article and adds the new year appropriation to it. So it's in one place and just goes up and down. So we add to it with town meeting and then they pay it out during the year. So it's all in one place in one cumulative warrant article. So you can look at it all the time. So it's not like you got 20 years, you got 20 different warrant articles that you're playing around with. There's only one. There's only one account that this is reported in.
But they only pull it out if they need it, right? They don't pull 50K out.
No, that's right. So they literally paid as people retire. They just don't know who's going to retire for sure. So they want to have a pot of money available because they don't know how to budget for it for sure. So.
Okay.
So that one I can buy. It's the one before that is, to me, is silly. Okay, the next one is the one we talked to John Perrin about. Every year there is a warrant article to basically give him $100,000 to spend on unknown repairs and maintenance. So this is outside his budget, and he comes close to spending most of it. He said to us he still thinks it's a good number. He's going to have a little bit left at the end of the year, but not much. So far it seems to work as far as the number goes. Now there's people in town that think it should be a lot bigger. Al Hamilton thinks it should be 250, but we've been doing 100 for quite a while. John Parent seems to think it's a good number, and so we go with what he says. All right. Next one is the annual authorization of the 10 revolving funds we have, and that's what Tim was referring to, that rec is now up to 500K. So again, this is the maximum amount that can be spent out of these funds in a year. So they take a look at what they think they're going to spend as far as what it can be used for, and try to pick up a number that's going to cover what comes out of it.
Yeah, 500,000 is just a huge amount.
It is. So I'm happy to ask Brian where they came, because it's a big jump from what it was last year. I think last year was 400.
Yeah. It's just a large amount of money. And the accounting around it is not ideal.
Yep, you're right.
As we've discovered.
Yep, so we don't have to vote on that one tonight. We can hold that one.
How do these amounts get decided on?
They take a look, Brian, Adam, every year at what actually got spent for the last fiscal year out of that revolving fund and plop that number in here. They round up and plop it in here because they assume they're going to continue to need to spend about that kind of money.
So I just find it odd, I guess. I mean, I love playing golf just as much as anybody else, but it does seem odd that that is significantly higher than so many other things, like tobacco control program, $4,000 versus golf maintenance of $75,000.
That's truly maintaining the golf course, mowing it and doing all the stuff that you have to do, paying the management company that manages it. So I don't know what all they do. I don't know what they spend the tobacco control program actually on. I don't know if anybody else does. So it just depends on what they're doing with it. So those 10 numbers are not in the budget. The fees are coming in right to this separate account, and then expenses are being paid out of it. So you don't see, so this is not in the budget.
Yeah, so Kathy, are we still in a situation in town where, in terms of managing these accounts, these funds, are we still in a situation where the person requisitioning is also the same person invoicing, is also the same person approving the invoice? I mean, I know even 2-3 years ago, we had an utter and complete lack of any financial controls around these amounts. And we all know something happened. And I don't know, like, how transparent is it now?
I don't know the answer, Tim. We all know that when you don't have separation of duties, right? Assuming you don't have collusion, that if you got the same person who is authorizing it and has control over it, you can end up with an issue, which we have in 2 cases. It's not just one, it's 2.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've learned from that. The auditor would have known about it. So I would think that in the management letter, he basically mentioned that. I would think that in the case of the bigger one, the schools, that they certainly tightened that up and learned, because what was going on there was actually, I thought, pretty creative of the person who did it. So my guess is that one has certainly, they've learned a lesson from that one. I hope the second one too. But I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know. Now, these are really small things, right? So I don't know if you've got the same person that has multiple duties that really could basically handle the whole thing from beginning to end, and then do something inappropriate if they chose to.
Yeah, so that's definitely one concern I still have. The other one is, when we look at recreation, it's there so that they have money to fund their programs before the fees come in, right? And it's a timing thing, but it's not a 12-month timing thing, right? It should be a 1-month timing thing, right? They plan a program, right? They have to pay for the program, and then people sign up and they collect fees against that program. It almost sounds like they're taking like a yearly amount that they spend and creating the max based on that, which is ridiculously high.
Yep. So I agree, but they've got to have an authorization to at least whatever gets pulled out of it. They're supposed to be able to do that with this approval. But a few years ago, long before Tim Davis, there was a time when the rec department at least was accumulating money to build a community center. That's what they were going to accumulate money for, which of course was not appropriate. They didn't have the authority to build a community center. So we've agreed we're going to talk about this more after town meeting, as far as especially that one. But I'll still ask a question as far as where 500 came from, because that used to be 300 something. And then it went up to 400 something. It was always a specific number too, not a round number. So I'll find out why it's gone up to this round 500. All right. Okay, so the next group of articles are what we call the CPC articles. So most of their articles are admin. You've got to basically approve the way they put money in buckets, and you've got to approve the bond payments for previous projects. So that's what most of these do. And then, so there's only one new project this year, and it's really small compared to what we normally see, and it's the Mooney tennis courts. So CPC was supposed to be here tonight, but I never could get hold of them. So I will get them here either the 13th or 27th. So we won't vote on that one tonight. But there's no reason not to go and vote on the perfunctory one. So here's the 25 is the one that is the new project. Everything else till you get to there is stuff that you just have to do, and there's really not much to discuss on it. These are just the bookkeeping that you have to do as far as previous projects approved or putting money that they collect into their correct buckets. So when they come, we'll get to see all their finances as far as what they collected, what the surcharge was from the town, what the state match was, et cetera, what's in each bucket. But this is something we have to do. You agree, Tim? Yes?
Sorry, yes, yes, yes.
All right, so that's CPC. 26. Okay, so now we start getting to some of the more interesting ones. Okay, 26 is the vote to basically approve cross easements that are necessary to do the work to move St. Mark's Street, to try to fix the drainage problem, and to build the pocket park across from St. Mark's School, the one that has generated so much controversy as far as the blog, et cetera. So that's that one. So that's going to get a whole lot of discussion. Right now, they've got license agreements in place to allow us to do the work we're doing. There are some that think those license agreements needed to have been approved by town meeting also. This is a 2/3 vote, so it's a high bar to cross. There's going to be a lot of discussion on this one. So this will start the discussion on all the issues with that project. So here we go with this one, right? So that's the first one.
Yeah, Kathy, I mean, for my sake, like, to me, this is a very, like, the focus looks pretty narrow on this one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think my take is, if it's an easement, right, we have a license today, I'd rather have an easement. Forget about what the characteristics of the park or any of the other things. We should have an easement instead of a license. Right. I think the discussion should be very pointed to what the article consists of. It's not approving a park. It's not approving what they're doing there. It's St. Mark's is saying, basically, for no money, we will give you rights to our land. And I think that's
and we're doing the same thing to them. So it's a cross easement. We're giving them an easement. They're giving us an easement. Yeah. But this one is going to I almost wish that 27 was 26 and vice versa, so we get the noise bylaw maybe voted on before we get to because this one's so related to the others. But anyway, it is what it is. Okay, noise bylaw. It's my understanding that they're still tinkering with a little language here. So I thought we'd wait to vote on this one till it really is final, but it seemed like we were inclined to support this. I don't know if you guys changed your minds since our meeting with them. But we still won't vote tonight on this one yet, so they can really get it finalized. And I don't know what it is they're trying to change. I just heard that there's a little bit something the select board asked them to change.
I believe it was section 9, Kathy.
Section 9. Oh, thanks, Marcy.
I think so. Yeah, I think that
Section
came up
9
on
is right here.
last
So
night's meeting.
Do you know what they're doing to it?
I don't, but I do recall it. Section 9 was brought up by one of the selectmen as a point of issue, but I don't have any more details.
And was a noise bylaw committee there or someone there
Yes.
to hear
Yes.
it? And did they agree they're going to go back and discuss with their committee?
They're working on the whole thing still, so.
Okay. All right, so we'll get to that one. Okay, 28 is what we're calling the trees bylaw. So we're going to meet with the planning board next week. Select board's coming too on the 13th, so we'll have a chance to talk about this one. This one's complicated, so hopefully you guys can read this one before next Wednesday. There's definitely people that have issues with this, even in its current form. They've revised it several times, but planning board seems to think it's ready. They've been asked to postpone it to the fall. They don't want to. So we'll have another chance to talk about whether it should be postponed or not next week. But in the meantime, we need to at least get to the point we know whether we've got a problem with it or not. And then, okay, so that one,
In general, Kathy, what are the, what are the problems that, that's causing opposition?
the shade trees. So I had someone come in my office and actually highlight what their problem is. And he gave me an example of trees in his yard that this is going to pick up as far as the town having jurisdiction because of the drip line of the trees. The actual roots of the tree are not in the right of way, but the drip line is. And so he is concerned that the town's going to have jurisdiction over trees he doesn't believe. So this public shade tree is where I got my cursor. If you focus on that, that's where people are having trouble, is there. As far as that piece of it goes.
And okay, but in what sense? In terms of the town protecting it or taking it out?
So Tim, for instance, if there was a tree on the line of your property, but it was on town property, right? So, and the branches leaned over your property, right? If it was between you and your neighbor, you could cut the branches of the tree up, from your property line up. With this, you could not. And anything underneath those branches, what they call the drip line, you would have to get a permit in order to do any work.
Even if it's my own land?
Even if it's your own land. Because you could be imaging the root structure of the tree, right? So anytime it's, digging or whatever, if you wanted to plant flowers on your own property that just so happen to be underneath the branches of a tree that is on, the right of way, then you would need a permit and they could fine you for not getting one. I think that's what Kathy mentioned is kind of what people are a little bit worried about.
Yes, well stated, Andrew. Thank you. Much better than I did. Mimi has said, so Mimi's the one that has been the leader of this effort. And she said they've looked at other towns and they think that what they're proposing is kind of in between what everybody else is doing. It's not the most restrictive and it's not the least restrictive. So she thinks that they have come to a good compromise. I think that the impetus for this was the recent cutting down of certain trees that maybe the planning board didn't agree with. So they just think it's time to do something formally. Marcy, any comment on this one from what you've heard?
I think last night there was a little bit of discussion on the scenic road part.
Yep.
The designation of many more roads being scenic roads, whether or not that, serves the town well. So I think that's being probably debated and discussed more. That's the first time I had heard that, I think, last night.
Why wouldn't somebody want their road to be a scenic road?
I'm not sure.
There's more. So the difference between scenic and non-scenic, basically, Tim, is stone walls are included.
Yeah.
It's not. And I guess in 1978, they voted that every road in town should be a scenic road. So they're basically adding the road that have been added.
You're breaking up, Andrew. Yeah, so I'm a little bit familiar with this. I know because of the area of town in which I live. The fact that Flag Road is a scenic road is one of the few things that prevented it from immediately being straightened, widened, sidewalks installed, speed limits increased for more traffic, right? Not just potentially for Park Central, but as a cut through between 30 and 9. It provides a very important function for residential neighborhoods. And I truly, as a homeowner, I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want that. I struggle.
And FYI to everybody, they're picking up every road that was not previously designated on this list other than state roads. So this should pick up every single road if it's approved in the town of Southborough. Okay. So the two these are both planning board sponsored articles. This is kind of Don Morse's his thing, scenic road, and then Mimi is the trees one. So that's who I think will speak to him next week. Okay, oh shoot, sorry. Okay, so we heard from Trails Committee last week. So when we get to that one, we'll see if you guys are ready to vote on that one. If you heard enough, you heard very clear advocate of it, and you heard Jim Haggerty's problems with it. They have made a couple of changes since we met per Jim's constructive suggestions, but they definitely have not done everything he wanted, which is, no associate members, et cetera. Interesting, the select board voted 3-2 on this one. So they voted to support it. The three, I don't know if this guy, there's 3 men voted for it, the 2 women didn't. So there's that one. And they voted against it because of the associate members.
Can somebody who understands this better explain to me again the value of an associate member?
I think that's what everybody's struggling with. I mean, we heard what Catherine said, which is she wants to basically recognize those that contribute, but can't spend the time being an official member, et cetera. So that was her stated reason as far as doing this. No other committee has associate members other than the ZBA that's got their alternates.
Is that all it is a pat on the back for somebody who volunteers?
Anybody else hear anything different last week? Yeah, I don't want
like,
to demean what she said, but I think that's kind of what she was saying.
I feel like there was some back and forth on this, and I feel like she was trying to suggest or come back and say it wasn't just an honorary thing, but it was about having more volunteers, more expertise, more people who were a little bit more bought in. I think she was walking back from the honorary statement, which Mr. Haggerty was really latched onto, I believe. And a layer question on here. I mean, I was listening last week, and some of this being new is a little over my head at times, but counter argument, right? What's the issue with calling an associate? I understood there's a larger point in terms of inconsistencies between all of the various boards and committees in terms of like quorums and positions, and there was a lot, but that to me seemed like a separate topic, right? In terms of if we don't have a consistent standard, we don't have a consistent standard. So why am I holding, one article or one potential new board to that standard that hasn't been established? But I'm still not totally clear on what the concern is around the associate position, or that the name, so to speak.
Are the associate members appointed explicitly?
Yes.
I think so, yeah. And listed on the website as associate members.
I believe I also heard that it was related to quorum, so having them as permanent members versus associate. I could be wrong, but I thought that Catherine mentioned that. So
Quorum would be important. The other thing that Jim said that registered with me a little bit, I know it's not a lot, but every associate member becomes a town employee. Do they have to go through training? Do they have to get an email account? What's the cost to the town, et cetera? It seems like an annoyance, an annoying logistical issue for something that doesn't really provide value.
He did mention that the town email thing, like I think $100 a year was the number he mentioned.
Yeah, but
So,
she disputed that too, though. I forget what she said, but she disputed that.
I thought there was dispute around the training aspect.
Yes, I think they still have to do. So the 2 people that are associates are on other boards and committees. So they've already done all the training and they already have an email.
Okay, that's what she said, Andrew. So that's why it was going to be not another out because they already have one.
Hey, Kathy, here's an interesting question for you now. Are you ready for this one?
I am.
Because it's an associate member, can advisory be part of this now?
Well, we're not supposed to be on standing committees, so I'd say no.
Well, we can't be members of standing committees. Can we be associate members?
Well, obviously our bylaw doesn't address that because we didn't have such a thing when the bylaw was written. So I don't know. I bet the answer is no, but I don't know.
Again, if you're a non-voting member, I mean, you can just go to the meetings.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I kept going back to the kind of my thought was, why wouldn't you have committee members and then volunteers that participate? You might have very strong, solid volunteers that help you out. But I don't know that naming them as associate members, makes any sense based on what I heard so far. But you could certainly have a group of volunteers that contribute routinely and recognize them in some way. But
which they do. They already do. So they do that. So that's one issue. The second issue that Jim raises is that he would prefer that all committees, et cetera, have the same set of rules that we work in, so that you don't have to worry about, different quorum rules for different committees. Even if we were not to support this and it were to not pass, Jim intends to bring his article back that does try to make things more consistent in the fall. So if you were to pass this, then his article is still going to, I guess, override this if it were to pass. So I'm not sure what happens to like MTC that has, quite an extensive set of its own rules, et cetera. So I'm not sure how you resolve the differences in individual committee charges if Jim brings this back and his passes. So that's to be resolved too. So this one's a little bit of an issue here. I thought they both made pretty good cases, but I think we're saying maybe majority is that it doesn't seem to us that you need this associate position to get volunteers to help you, which they clearly need with what they do. So we understand why they need volunteers, but they've got volunteers, I think. So it doesn't sound like we're convinced you need to have a formal position in order to ensure your volunteers.
Kathy, do we want to focus on the ones that we want to vote on?
Well, we're almost done. So let me just do this and we're going to go back through. Okay, so 32 is the CIP. That's the article that makes the capital committee, changes its name and makes it permanent. So we spent a lot of time with that one. So I think we can go on that one tonight. All right. Okay, the next one is 33. That's the Regional School Committee capitalization, our capital stabilization fund, which we talked about a lot. So that one I think we can probably take care of tonight.
Just a question. Because when you say it has a maximum of $600,000, right?
Well, they've changed it back.
Yeah, Kathy, I don't think this is the most recent version.
So this is not, we actually won't, well, we can vote on the article, but this is not what it says, Tim. They actually realized that Northborough already passed it in 18. And so we've got to end up with an article that looks like that, or it would make no sense. So this is no longer the language.
Okay.
Okay, so the 600 is not going to be in there.
Is it a different number or just gone?
There's no number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gone. It's gone. Okay, the next four are the citizens petition articles that are in large part here because of the issues people have with the St. Mark's Pocket Park. Michael Weisham is sponsoring two, and a lady named Patty Fury is doing the other two. So we're not going to talk about those tonight. Those are later.
I'm sorry, Kathy, do the sponsors of those articles understand that they're all effectively illegal?
I don't know the answer to that, Tim.
Okay.
So,
because you look at one of them, right? If you go back, I know you don't want to talk about it, but I kind of want to bring this one up. I forget which one it is. There's one of these articles, the one about creating a standing committee.
Yeah. The pilot one.
The pilot committee, and it's requiring advisory to be on it, which is in violation of our own bylaw.
And then one wants they want advisory to basically oversee the roads,
which we have no authority to do.
So we'll on the 27th, we're going to ask both of them to come and talk about it and see what we can do with them.
Okay.
And we only have Algonquin for 2 nights as far as back-to-back meetings, so hopefully we'll get through it. Okay, so now let's see if we can take our votes so that we can get some of these into the preliminary. Okay. So what I and proposal we voted tonight, and Andrew Pfaff has agreed, is, let me just do this one at a time. So number one, which is here, committee reports. Number two, acceptance of pilot payments. Number three, annual borrowing authorization. Number four, authorization of contracts in excess of 3 years. So that's four. So maybe we do these kind of four at a time. I don't think we're going to have an issue with any of these. If we do, we can break them out, but I don't, these again are the perfunctory administrative ones, so there's not a lot to discuss with. So anybody disagree with the plan so we can get through this quicker? I see no one saying no. Okay, so Marcy, can you be the one that makes a motion, and Adam, the one that seconds all these motions, so that we can get through this pretty quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so Marcy, you're going to make a motion to basically support. So that's your motion, is we want to support. The motion is to support Articles 1 through 4.
All right. I make a motion that we vote to support Articles 1 through 4.
Second.
Okay, so Adam has seconded, Claire. So roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
And Cook is aye. So that's 7-0, Claire, for the Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Catherine, I see your hand up, and we'll get to you in a minute, but we've got to get these votes out of the way first. Okay. The next one is number 6 is to rescind the rest of the barn authority for the public safety building. And let's see what else can we do. Let's add the number 12, which is the $250,000 to the OPEB trust fund. Let's see. Okay, let's do those two. Okay, so it's Article 6 and Article 12. Marcy.
All right. I make a motion that advisory approves Articles 6 and 12.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Eric.
Aye.
Marcy.
Aye.
Tim. Is that an aye? Tim, say aye.
That is an aye. Aye.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Adam.
Aye.
AP.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
And Cook is aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7-0, Claire. Okay, now let's do the leasing one, which is 15, capital budget 14, so 14 and 15. And 18 is the insurance deductible, and 19 is the payment to retirees of $50K. So Marcy, it is 14, 15, 18, and 19.
I make a motion that advisory support Article 14, 15, 18, and 19.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Any further discussion? Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Adam? Adam?
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you. AP?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Cook is aye. So Claire 7-0 for those 4.
Hey,
Okay,
Kathy, I would suggest maybe at the end of this, let's just say a blanket that all these are related to a version of the warrant.
Okay, did you say that at the end, we just confirmed that these are all based on the version of the warrant that is in front of us?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, now let's do all the, I'm going to come back to the budget. I'm leaving that one for last. Okay, let's do the CPA ones, and that's 22, 23, 24. So I'm leaving off 25, which is the actual project, because we're going to wait till we hear from them. Okay, so Marcy, can you do Articles 22 through 24?
I make a motion advisory support Articles 22, 23, 24.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Cook is yay. So 7-0 for those 3, Claire, 22 through 24. Okay, now this on its own, I'm going to go back to number 16, which is a Newton Street water project. Marcy, so just do 16 on its own.
All right, I make a motion to advisory support Article 16, Newton Street project.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
AP,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Cook is aye, so 7-0 on that one, Claire. Number 16, Newton Street Water Improvement Project. Okay, so I've got a question. Do you guys want to vote on 26, which is the easements? Eric, you ready to vote on that one?
I'm sorry.
26 is the easement where we're granting St. Mark's an easement
Oh.
on, and then they're granting us an easement on the
Sorry.
piece
Yeah,
that.
I'm ready to vote on that personally. Yep.
Marcy, are you ready on that one?
I think I still have a few questions, but we could still take a vote. I could.
We can always change our vote too. As
Correct,
time goes by,
correct.
right? Okay. Tim, are you ready to vote on it? Okay, Adam,
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
and I know, Andrew, you are, right?
Yep.
Okay, and Tom?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Marcy, can you make a motion to basically support Article 26 easements?
I make a motion advisory supports Article 26 on easements.
Sorry, second.
Second, further discussion, roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Cook is nay. So that is a 6-0-1 vote, Claire. And make sure if there's a nay, who you know who it is. So Cook is nay on that one. All right, the next one I think we can vote on is the one Andrew Dennington came to us tonight on is Regulations 31. Anyone disagree? So raise your hand if you disagree with voting on that one. Everybody happy with that one? It looks like it. Okay, Marcy, that's Article 31, Regulations.
I make a motion advisory support Article 31.
Second.
And Adam second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Cook is aye. So that's 7-0, Claire, on Regulations, Article 31. Okay, the next one that I think we're ready for is Article 32, which is the making the Capital Planning Committee a standing committee from its current ad hoc status, and also changing its name to Capital Improvement Planning Committee from the CPC to avoid confusion with the other CPC. Anyone not ready to vote on that one? Okay, so seeing none, Marcy, that's Article 32, Capital Planning Committee.
I make a motion advisory supports Article 32, capital planning.
Second.
Okay, no further discussion. Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Cook is aye. So that's 7-0 to support Article 32. Okay, now, do you want let's just wait on the regional school subdivision fund until we see the actual final language in that one.
Kathy, can I ask a question?
Of course.
I made a mistake on voting on 26. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted on which one we're on the easements. Can I change my vote on that, or do we have to do the whole thing over?
We'll just revote it real quick. Okay,
Okay.
so let's go back and revote the support for Article 26. Okay, so Marcy, I guess I'm doing this right. Somebody correct me if I'm not doing this right. So we're just going to revote Article 26. So go ahead, Marcy, make the motion.
Okay, so I'll make the motion
Call
again.
it revote. Just say call it a
Okay.
revote.
I make a motion advisory revotes Article 26 on easements. Thanks.
Second.
All right. No, any further discussion? Okay, so here we go.
So
Eric,
not to be pedantic, Kathy, but are we voting on whether or not we'll revote, or are we actually voting like on the article?
we were
'cause if
voting
this-
on, I wasn't doing Robert's rules here. So we are actually voting on the article again. If you want me
Okay.
to So I wasn't being strict as far as
Okay.
how to do this. Okay,
I'm
is that
fine with
okay?
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
So-
all
Sorry
right,
about
so
that.
we're re-voting Article 26. We're not voting to see if we can revote. We're voting to revote. Okay, everybody got it? All right. Okay, so I'm doing this in order. I'm seeing people. So Marcy,
Nay.
okay, Tim,
I,
Adam,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
AP,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and Cook is still nay. So Claire, that's now a 5-2-0 vote. 5-4-2 against. The two against are, two nays are Marcy and Kathy. Okay, we're going to wait on the Regional School Stabilization Fund until we get the final language because it's quite different from what we're seeing tonight in this. Okay, I think I've done them all. Andrew, are you checking me except for the budget ones?
Not really.
Okay, I think I got them. Do you guys want to vote on trails tonight? Catherine wants to come over and talk to us. Do you want to vote on trails tonight?
Sure.
I'm
yeah,
ready.
I'm happy to hear from Catherine first.
All right, so we'll bring her over in just a minute. Let's do the budget piece of it first. Okay. The budget that is in the warrant is one that I believe we support, except for possibly one thing, which is the Board of Health budget. At least that's what I don't support. I'm not sure what the other six think. So we're going to basically run through the budget. And if anybody wants to hold a line item, you say hold, just like we did. When we, go ahead.
Are you gonna show it, Kathy?
Yeah, I'll pop it up here, right, and do it that way. And then, I mean, that's what we did when we met with the select board. So anybody wants to hold a budget because that's one they don't want to support, then just say hold. Okay. And then the ones that aren't held will vote as a group, and the ones that are held we'll talk about separately. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
All right.
Kathy, I think we have the revised stuff for Article 33 from the email from Mark. So I suggest we vote it with that email.
Okay, so let's do the budget first, and then we'll come back to that one. AP? Just don't
Yep,
let me
sounds
forget
good.
it. Okay, don't let me forget it. Okay. Where is it?
I think you're gonna have to open up the Excel sheet, right?
Well, I guess so.
Yeah, it's not in here.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. I can still share, Eric.
You're sharing as we speak.
Okay, can everybody see the spreadsheet? There's nothing on it. I'm in the wrong place, but can everybody see the spreadsheet?
No,
No,
I see a
Kathy.
Word doc.
Yeah, I think you're sharing a program versus your
Okay, so I'm
screen.
going to stop share and then I'm going to share again.
Senior documents folder, file explorer.
Okay, so you don't see the spreadsheet.
No.
All right.
Nope.
Yeah.
So Kathy, I think you have to stop sharing again and then reshare the specific application.
I know, but I'm not
Sorry.
signed in. So yeah, I know, I just don't execute very well. I know theoretically what to do.
It's all right. It's a long day. 10:15. Wow.
But Kathy, I would stop sharing what you're sharing now.
I'm trying.
There you go.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so now can I share again, Eric?
Yep.
Now?
Nope.
Just try closing that folder. There you go. Where you had it.
I didn't close
I'll-
anything. I didn't
I'll
close
just
anything. I mean, all I'm doing is picking this up straight from OneDrive.
Are you sharing the screen or the application?
I'm sharing the screen. I just moved it over, so I'm sharing the screen.
Try just sharing the application. Might make it easier.
Still no?
There's a spreadsheet now.
Spreadsheet.
Well, that's what we want, spreadsheet.
Yep. Just scroll to the left and you should be good.
All right, so, okay. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go to the actual budget detail here, okay? So everybody see the budget, starting with moderator?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to read these fairly quickly, so just say hold if there's something you don't agree with as far as the budget goes. All right, here we go. Moderator, elected select board, advisory committee, reserve fund, town accountant, audit, elected assessors, treasurer/collector, town council, personnel board, special legal counsel, municipal technology committee, informational technology, other operation support, elected town clerk, conservation commission, planning board, zoning board of appeals, open space, EDC, facilities, ADA, police, fire, building, civil defense, animal control officer, DPW, elected, Board of Health.
Yeah, hold on, Board of Health.
Okay, so that's elected Board of Health. So the next was Board of Health. So we're holding Board of Health. Okay. Council on Aging, Youth Commission, Veteran Services, Library, Recreation, Historical Commission.
Kathy, can we hold historical just so I can abstain?
Yep. Okay, Memorial Day, elected school committee, Southborough Schools, Algonquin, the Algonquin exempt debt, Assabet, Norfolk, employee benefits on both the town and the school side, the legal settlement with Algonquin or with Northborough, general liability, both town and school, retirement of debt, both town and school, the interest on the debt, both town and school. Okay. All right. So Andrew is asking to hold historic because his wife is on historic, so he's going to abstain from that vote. So that's why that was being held. So we only held Board of Health. Okay. So Marcy.
Yes, I guess I would abstain too from historical,
Okay. So
considering my husband is chair.
Oh, that's true. Good point. So
Thanks.
you'll abstain on that one too. So the 5 of us will vote on that one. Okay. So Marcy, can you make a motion to vote on the entire budget, proposed budget for fiscal year 23, except for the Board of Health budget and the Historical Commission budget?
Just say operational budgets.
For each
I
of
make
those.
I make a motion, advisory, approve the operational budgets as outlined, holding Board of Health and Historical Commission.
Is there a second? So Adam seconded. Okay, any further discussion before we vote on the proposed entire fiscal year 23 budget except for those two line items?
I'm still not happy with the 9% Algonquin, but I guess it is what it is.
Well, what are we going to do, Andrew?
Nothing right now.
Okay. All right, Marcy,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Adam. Is that a yes? An aye? Yeah. Okay. Tim,
Aye.
AP,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and Cook is aye. So that's 7-0 to support the fiscal year 23 proposed budget as written in the warrant article for the budget, except for the line items for the Board of Health and for Historic. Okay, now let's vote on the Historic Commission budget, which is $1,000, and we're going to have 2 abstentions, Claire. Okay, so I'll make that motion, so because Marcy can't. So I make the motion to support the Historic Commission budget of $1,000 for fiscal year 23.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and Cook is aye. So Claire, that's 5-0-2. And note the 2 abstentions are Andrew and Marcy.
Kathy, we should just note that the amounts we're voting to support are on the 330 rev cap.
Okay, so Claire, in your minutes, can you make sure you add what AP just said, that we're voting on the amounts that are shown on the treasurer's 330.22 rev cap? Is Claire here? There she is. Okay, there you go.
And can you just send me that file so that I can have that to hand, the operational budget, so that I can PDF
Yes,
that?
I'm going to send it to you as soon as we sign off tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to send you the Excel workbook, the whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we need to vote on the Board of Health budget. And to kind of recap, this is the budget that we've talked about for 2 years. The Select Board has voted to support this. It reflects the addition of upgrading one part-time person full-time. It does not reflect the addition of the second person. They have voted to use ARPA funds to fund the second position. So they're basically supporting the 2 positions being full-time, but only going to fund one of them through the general fund. Okay. Marcy, can you make the motion to support the Board of Health budget? And then you can vote yay or nay.
I make a motion in support of the Board of Health budget as listed on the Rev Cap 330.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this budget before we
So
vote?
which position are we explicitly voting on then?
Well, the motion is made to support. So if you don't support it, you're going to say nay.
No. Which, is it the nurse or the director?
The position that they have voted to fund through the general budget is the health director.
Okay.
Kathy, are you sure about that? I thought they used ARPA for the health director.
I am in the 90s, Andrew, but I'm not 99.9. So you think it's the other way around?
I do.
Let me just see if they made a note here on this. Tim, is that going to affect your vote?
It is.
Let me see if I can find.
Is Brian still, who's in our audience right now?
Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the positions is the full-time director. The other one is increasing the part-time nurse to a full-time nurse, right?
Yeah, so both of them are basically taking part-time positions in the budget for last year and making them full-time. Even though they work full-time, they were in the budget last year, part-time also.
Well, the director though was going to 30 hours, correct? It was 17 to 30.
Yeah. It's either 30 or 32. So yes, so you're right. The nurse is going to 40, and this is all she wanted is those hours as far as what she's going to. So you're right.
So is the director benefited now?
Director's always been benefited and still is benefited because it's still they still got paid for last year. It just didn't go through the budget. And so you had CARES Act that funded a lot of it, including the benefits. So it got funded. So they've been fully benefited all along. At least when they were fully benefited effective 7/1, and probably before with when they started working, because they were working more than 19 and a half hours to begin with. So they've always been fully benefited. That's not anything new. It's just how it got funded.
Kathy, it's Marcy. Just to recap, we discussed possibly recommending that both positions be funded through ARPA, correct?
Right.
Instead
correct.
of through the budget. Okay, just want to make sure I had that right.
Yeah, but we just don't have, we can recommend that to Select Board, Marcy, and I think we will continue to recommend, because what's going to happen at town meeting, we're going to, if we vote to not support this budget by at least a majority, someone will stand up and basically make a motion to amend, the budget will get held, and then we'll make an amendment to reduce the budget by X amount of dollars, $50,000, whatever it is. And if that were to pass, then the Select Board is going to have to decide what to do, because if they don't do something, then that position won't be full-time July 1st, like they seem to want and like the Board of Health wants. They would have to probably use ARPA funds for both of them. I don't know what other choice they'd have at that point. And they're well aware of this. They're well aware of our position. They're well aware that's what they may have to do if the amendment that we may be proposing at town meeting passes.
Thank you.
Kathy, more question here, because I feel like we've talked about this one a lot, and I feel like my mind's been made up here, but maybe it's the lateness of the hour, the COVID that I have, but we're talking about the funding source. But I think my concern has been, we don't know long-term what the needs are from the Board of Health, right? And we've talked about, regionalization and other options. So, my intent to not support this is because I want flexibility, meaning these guys don't have to be long-term full-time employees, right? So I guess, is that the case? Am I understanding that correctly? Because we're not.
You said it perfectly. So,
because they're not in the, sorry, just forgive me. Just because of the way if we pull them out of the budget, right, from the general fund, then we can essentially eliminate them in the future or have them. But because they're being funded through ARPA or through CARES previously, it gives us that flexibility. Is that accurate?
Yes. And
okay,
this is just me talking. I would like to do everything we could possibly do. And this is what we can do to encourage the Board of Health to get together with their 3 sister towns that are sharing this grant and truly make an effort to understand what this department should look like going forward post-pandemic. And keeping in mind, I hear probably 1 out of 3 days something on the radio about all the money the state has that's being pushed toward this, mental health, all kinds of things, where the state is encouraging regionalization. So state is trying to get this done. So I want someone to make a real bona fide effort to listen to this, take advantage of the state money, and sit down with the 3 sister towns and see what they can come up with and present it to the 4 towns. And that has not been done yet. And if we don't do this, I don't know that it's ever going to get done. So that's what we're trying to get done here, is for this regionalization approach, which has been talked about, which clearly the state is pushing. that we actually take the steps to take a look at how it would apply to us in our neighbor towns and see if it's not a way to provide more service for less cost. And I think that applies to for the youth and family services too, as far as them being able to get more mental health money, which they desperately need. Right. Okay, so Andrew, you think that the select board has voted to cover the director,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, with ARPA funds.
Yes.
Okay. So Tim, that makes a difference to you which one the ARPA funds is going to cover, at least thus far?
Yeah, it does. But I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so let's vote. And again, we can continue. So I'm just trying to get the vote, at least in the printed warrant. We can always revote, change it, whatever. Okay, so Marcy, do you understand the motion for this one? Do it again.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a motion for the Board of Health budget as posted here on the RevCap 330, correct?
Perfect, perfect.
All right, I make a
That's
motion
fine.
advisory supports the budget as written for the Board of Health on the RevCap March 30, 22 version.
Second.
Okay. All right, assuming no further discussion, roll call vote. Timothy?
Nay.
Eric?
Nay.
Adam?
I'm a nay.
Marcy?
Nay.
AP?
Nay.
Tom?
Nay.
Cook is nay. So Claire, that's a 0-7 vote to support the Board of Health budget as on the 330 RevCap. Okay, so we've now voted on everything we're going to vote on tonight as far as that budget goes. Let's do the Water Enterprise Fund next. All right. Okay, I don't think this one's in there either. No, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So this one's in there. Okay. Anyone want to see me share my screen on this one?
Which article is this, Kathy?
This is Article 11, which is the separate Water Enterprise Fund, which just means it's a separate town. It's on its own. It's got to collect enough water revenue to pay its own bills. It pays the town an amount of money for the town to provide the support it gets from the county department, treasurer, etc. But it's a standalone budget.
Are you showing it?
I'm not yet. I asked if anybody wants to see it.
Sorry. Yes, please.
I don't see why. Why do I have to stop sharing and resharing? Anybody know? Is this the way Zoom works?
You don't. You can share your screen, but it doesn't always work very well.
I think it's you. I think it's you, Kathy.
I think it is too. As my husband says to me the other day, Kathy, are you a moron? When I was trying to understand something. Anyway, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to reshare again. Okay, does everyone see Article 11?
Yep.
Great. It took 5 minutes. Okay, so bottom line is it's going down by almost 9% because the cost of water is dropping again because the economy is starting to pick back up again, and we will not have to buy as much, a larger percentage of water that we did during the pandemic. Boston's coming back to life again, so the water cost is going down, et cetera. So it's pretty cut and dry. Anyone want to discuss this one further?
No, except Kathy, the only thing is I think I think you just need to point out to Brian that the FY22 number is not correct. I don't think it takes into consideration the 150,000 we took out at special town meeting.
All right, so I think you should make that change. So I will do that. And remember though, even though this budget looks good, they are going to, she's proposing to increase water rates, probably already has by 5% for the next few years, each year to generate the revenue she needs to pay the bills. So the revenue is still going to go up and water rates are still going to go up. Okay, but we're only voting on the actual expenditures. Okay, Marcy, can you make the motion to basically approve Article 11, which is the Water Enterprise Fund proposed budget for fiscal year 23?
I make a motion advisory support Article 11, the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 23.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Cook is aye. So Claire 7-0 on Article 11, the Water Enterprise Fund budget. Okay, so now let's go back to the Algonquin Capital Stabilization Fund. So AP, you've got the language?
Yep, I'll share it. If Eric lets me.
You should be good, man. You guys are both co-hosts.
I have host disabled participant screen sharing. Kathy, why don't you you have the email from Mark. Why don't you put it up? Okay, yeah, actually, I got it now. Okay.
I think Kathy may have to stop. Or maybe
Yeah.
not.
I will.
You can see it now, right?
I think we can see him. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So take it from here, AP.
It's just, so here's the new language, right? So it just was revised. And it's now to see if the town will vote to authorize Northborough Southborough School District to establish stabilization fund. Chapter 71, section 16G, half the general law for the purpose of funding capital items is identified in the Northborough Southborough Regional School District capital plan or do or act anything in relation thereto. So it's basically back to the original without the cap and without having the necessity of going through capital planning.
So discussion.
I think we would just
No.
vote it.
Yeah, I'm ready to vote. I
Vote.
mean,
Okay. Marcy? So this is 33.
Yep, all right. I vote, sorry. I make a motion advisory support Article 33, which is authorization of the Northborough Southborough Regional School District Stabilization Fund.
Second.
Further discussion, roll call vote. Marcy?
Nay.
Okay, Kathy, I would just say as shown on the screen.
As shown on the screen and sent to us on 4/5/22. Okay. All right, sorry. Marcy was nay.
Nay.
Tom?
Yay. Aye.
Okay, so you're yay. Eric?
nay.
Nay. Adam?
Nay.
AP?
Nay.
Timothy? Anyone hear Tim?
And we didn't hear you.
I'm here. Hi. I
Okay.
had a problem with my computer. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're aye.
I missed the last 2 minutes.
So sorry, Tim. So we're back on so Article 33 as shown here without the $600,000 cap and without the capital planning oversight.
No, I'm against this. Nay,
Okay.
I do not support.
Okay, Cook is nay. So we've got 1 support and 6 against. So Claire, this is a 1-6 vote. The person in support is Tom. All right. Okay, so I think we voted on everything we can tonight, other than possibly the trail. So let's just, is Catherine still here? Yeah. So Catherine, raise your hand if you still want to come over. She does. So let's bring Catherine over.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking the time. So I just happened to chime in and heard that there might be a little confusion. So I wanted to take a couple minutes to help clarify the associate member and just to leave you with some parting thoughts as you perhaps take a vote tonight. So I'll keep it pretty short. I just wanted to let you know one of the primary reasons for the associate members, it's not just to give a pat on the back so much as it is to acknowledge the volunteers that are in the associate member, which we currently have 2 of. So this isn't technically a new thing. We currently have the structure, so we're just putting it into a bylaw. And like I had mentioned last time, the committee does physical labor outside of our monthly meetings. So these associate members would be already familiar with the trails. They would be up to speed on what we're doing for projects. They help with the volunteer work. They're under the liability of town, so we don't have to organize work parties. A lot of times we'll go out and do our own trails maintenance if it doesn't require a ton of work. So those are some examples and benefits of why having an associate member under this structure would be beneficial to our committee, Trails Committee. Get more residents involved and also leverage expertise of people who might not have full bandwidth, right? So those are some clarifying points. The other thing is that the select board, you had asked, will appoint these committee members. And as far as additional costs, while we're sensitive to that and we would, obviously not want to incur additional costs for the town, I guess we should think about the benefits that we're getting from members of the committee that are doing free labor for the town. So even though it may cost $100 for an email, obviously we're not looking to have 5 or 6 of these. The guardrails really, stay with the select board. So if the select board felt like it was getting out of control or something, that obviously they would have a say in being able to put a break on that, for example. The other thing is the committee put a member conduct policy in place to ensure that all members, including associate members, would follow the open meeting law, would follow the conflict of interest law, and would be required to go through the same training that everybody else would. So we did our due diligence, we mimicked or mirrored rather another town's policy when they had associate members. So we did our due diligence to just make sure that we were not setting the town up for failure. This is new, and I understand that people really don't understand why we might want to do this. But I guess we are always asking, why do we want to do it? But maybe we should be asking, why not? Why not try this? Other communities are doing it. We vetted it with the general counsel. We called the attorney general's office, the open meeting law, to see if there'd be any conflicts in that case. Other communities are doing it. We've reached out to 10 to 12 different committees, boards, and commissions. We're talking to them. We're taking in their feedback, making sure that we're tweaking the language just to get it right. So we haven't taken this lightly. And so we are asking, we're asking for your support because we think it's a good thing. And I know it can be challenging when things are new, but we would also, while we recognize also that it can be an administrative effort to put some new things in place, but just because it takes a little extra work doesn't mean we shouldn't do it right out of the bat. So the Trails Committee, been in existence for 9 years. I think we've done really good for the community. We're asking you to take a shot, vote yes for this. So yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I sent over the bylaw, so you all have the most recent one. We took all of Jim Hegarty's feedback, except for the associate member, no. And we changed our language. We took and matched his quorum. We really wanted to do what his suggestions were. We just have this small tweak that's we're on different sides of. So I'll stop there.
Catherine, can I ask you a question? And by the way, thank you for sticking around with us so late here. So I guess help me understand this and forgive me because this is partially me being new. And I should just say I'm inclined to support what you guys are doing. I think you do great work, and I trust you to know what you guys need. You've been doing it for a long time. But if I'm reading the warrant article correctly, right, you're saying you guys have the ability to get volunteers, right, and organize them to go do work on the trails.
Right.
So I guess to your point of the associate members, if I'm playing devil's advocate, right, what can an associate member do that a regular volunteer can't, or what are you expecting to get out of an associate that you wouldn't get out of a volunteer? Just help me understand
Right.
that.
An associate member is another level of commitment of a volunteer. So this person attends meetings on a regular basis. They know what's going on. They know the trails, they know the challenges, and they can just get out there and do work with us. Organizing a volunteer party, organizing volunteers, you have to get a waiver signed, you have to orient them, you create maps, there's a lot of different effort that goes into it. And we're happy to do that. We do that. We're doing it now for a couple things that we're doing in town. We're working with a couple of other organizations. So there's a lot of back end work. So having these associate members just expands our work, our breadth, like our depth rather, and we're able to execute what we're doing on a day-to-day basis without having to go out and, get people up to speed. And they're also, because they're committee members, they're just covered under the liability policy. So it just kind of simplifies that, and having a couple of extra hands just already ready to go, up to speed, it's a benefit.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Timothy? Is everybody ready to vote on this one? Anyone not ready to vote, raise your hand. AP, you ready to vote?
Yep.
I don't see you. I see an A. Okay, so you're ready to vote, Andrew?
Yes.
So, Catherine, before we do that, a couple things. I hope you took to heart what Tim Martell recommended when we met with you, which is we think you should have a seat on the CPC. So don't forget that. And don't forget too, you've got an amount of money in the rec budget for trail. So even if you don't have a budget, they've got $1,750 in their budget for you. Okay, so you do have a little money.
Yeah, thank you. That was great.
Okay. All right, Marcy, you want to make a motion? This is Article 30.
Kathy, I have one question.
Go ahead,
Are
Tom.
we voting on this as the way it's written in Article 30 in this draft that we have? In
The
that
one
word
that I
doc?
sent around.
Okay, so the draft, well, it depends on which draft you have.
The one
so
that's
it
draft
was modified.
20 from the 28th, it looks like in the bottom left.
No, it's been modified since it's so Catherine listened to what Jim Haggerty said when he met with us, when they both met with us, and they did modify. They took out things like you don't have to be a registered voter, et cetera. So do you guys want to read it and then we vote next time, or you want to vote tonight as far as the final language is ready to go?
And before you answer,
I have Catherine.
I just want to
Catherine, you just
clarify.
walk through the documents.
Say that again, AP.
Yeah, just walk us through the changes here.
You can't see anything, Andrew.
Yeah, so we can't see what you're sharing and you sound like a robot. So two problems. So we still can't see what you're sharing. I don't think you're sharing again. Okay.
Stop sharing if anybody wants to share what you got. Go ahead.
Do you want me to try to share?
Give me 2 seconds. I'll pull it up for everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
And Catherine, just double check. This is what you just sent to us this evening, correct?
Yeah, this was what the select board voted on last night. And we made a couple changes based on their conversation too.
Double checking. You guys are seeing Word and not.
So those changes are reflected in this, correct, Catherine?
Correct. Yeah, and they're minor. So everything that you might have reviewed from the last time stays consistent, with the exception under 9.35 section, the establishment, membership, and quorum. What we did here was, as you said, Kathy, we took out the requirement to be a registered voter, and we took out the requirement or the statement that said you can't be a town employee and serve on the committee. So that way it's more inclusive of whoever wants to serve. They still need to be a resident. I think that's a standard piece. But those are the only two changes we made. Everything else stays consistent with the last draft that everyone saw.
So one more comment I wanted to make before we vote. I took to heart what Jim Haggerty said. We know, how good Jim is. We know how hard he works and diligent. So I took it to heart when he said that he really would like to see, committees, boards operate with, basically consistent rules, et cetera, as far as how they're formed, their quorums, et cetera. So I agree with him on that. It would be helpful if there really were more uniformity. But not supporting this one isn't going to solve that problem. So he's going to come back in the fall with, a revised article on the similar to the one he pulled, because there's more than there's others to take into account as far as what he wants to do. So not supporting that is not going to solve his problem, because there's others that also have different rules within them that are different than other committees. So I don't know that that's a great reason not to support this. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. And we agree, like, we're completely on board with standardizing, and we understand the reason why. I work in that industry, or that's my job in many cases, is to keep things consistent. So we're fine. I understand his article may interrupt.
It may change this. Yeah, it may change some of this if it passes. So that's.
I mean, it's not a light thing if it changes our associate members, but we're not tied to the structure of this. And honestly, if there were a town template bylaw that helped committees like mine, who could have used that in the beginning and simplified our lives, hey, we're all for that. But we did invite Mr. Haggerty 3 different times to help us draft this in a way that would work for him in his consistency, and he was denied each time. So we tried. We really wanted his expertise, and thank you for making that comment, because we do also want to standardize it, but perhaps that can be round 2. But yeah. So thank you.
Where's the statement on quorum?
Excuse me?
Where's the statement on quorum?
It's not under section 9.35A. It just says a simple majority now of voting members.
So look at line 20, Tim. Look at line 20.
Quorum. So does that mean what are you implying here? Usually there's a number.
Right?
Well, it's the majority of voting members. So if the voting members are 5, then it's 3.
So if you have 3 people show up in a given night, then your quorum's 2? I mean, what's being implied here?
It's majority of voting members. So the committee has assigned 5 members. So our quorum will always be 3. It doesn't change.
Why not put that in there?
Why not put it in there? Well, we had something else in there, so we just matched. This was the proposal that Mr. Haggerty had in his bylaw when it was in existence, so we just went with that.
Oh, that's interesting. So they tried to match what Jim had in his Article 27.
Yeah, we took it side by side because we understand his perspective, and we don't want to create. I think it would be difficult to manage. I think, what do we have, 60 boards, commissions, and committees, and everybody have something separate. So we get it.
It's a lot for a small town. Marcy?
Yeah. Hi, Catherine. Maybe you answered this already. I might have missed it. How many people are members right now?
We have 5 voting members and 2 non.
Okay, so that you're full with voting members right now?
Yep, we are.
And the rationale of not adding more voting members is simply related to quorum? Is that how I understood it?
That's right. So quorum was difficult to meet at times before COVID. I think we've all been there, and we were not interested in increasing our numbers at all. We talked about it.
Is that okay, Marcy? Okay,
Thank
so
you.
Marcy,
Thank you. That answers it. Thanks.
You want to make a motion to support Article 30, trails?
All right. I make a motion advisory supports Article 30 on trails as listed in the current version. I don't know which version this is, Kathy, but the current version we're seeing on the screen.
Second.
Last question, Kathy.
Yes.
Can you go down a little bit? So the overlap for the initial appointments, how is that going to work? How many?
How does it work? So I think what happens essentially, you just assign the first group to be appointed for the 2 years, and then the second group would be assigned in overlapping terms in that way.
So you're gonna have 3 people and 2 people. You're gonna have a group of 3 and a group of 2.
Yeah, it's going to have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're aware of what that does, right? So in any given year, your entire quorum could change, right?
Mhm.
Like you could have a new select board come in and the entire mission of your board could change in 1 year. Is that what you're prepared for?
The entire mission could change because of a new select board.
A new
would-
select board could put 3 people on your board and the entire vision of your board could change because there's a new majority. Is that something you're prepared? I mean,
Yeah,
have you
I mean-
considered that?
Probably not to the detail that you're referring to, no.
Okay, because I mean, oftentimes, like, why wouldn't you have 3-year terms to try to bring new members on in a more staggered fashion?
Well, the attempt of having 1 and 2 year terms or having the overlapping terms is in an effort trying to stagger them so that you don't lose everybody at one time. So, we could certainly take into consideration, but at this point, I don't think we're able to change the language. And if you want to talk offline what that means, and if we have to make changes, go to town meeting in the future.
No, I'm just something to consider. I mean, you could always, I mean, this is really something I think for you to consider, and this is something that you could amend at town meeting. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And I'm happy to talk offline if you have some ideas. We're very open to feedback.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've had a motion, we've had a second, we've had a discussion, so roll call vote. Marcy?
Nay.
Tim?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye. Yeah.
Aye. That's aye.
Yes.
Adam?
Aye.
AP?
Aye.
That was an aye, I think.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Everybody think he's saying aye? I think he's saying aye.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back to your vote in a second, because we're still not quite sure what you're saying. Tom?
Aye.
And Cook is aye. Okay, Andrew, can you raise your hand if it's an aye? Okay, I see his hand raised, right? Everybody hears, so his hand's raised. Okay, so the vote was 6 in favor, 1 against, 6-1. So you had the support of advisory, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for everything you do. Okay.
Well, thank you. Your work is not yet done. So have a great night and good luck with it.
Good night. Good night. Good night. All right, guys, it's late. We got a lot done tonight. We're going to meet next week with planning board. That'll be the main focus of next week is their 2 articles. We'll have some other things on the agenda, but mainly planning board. Select board's going to be there too. So thank you for hanging in there. We got a lot done tonight. So anybody from the public want to speak, like Kevin? Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Timothy?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP?
Aye.
Okay, I think that was an aye. So 7-0 to adjourn.